I live in a world where, after the wars, there are barely any men left. Now, for every man, there are 5 women, and the government gives out wives for money. I'm a blind beggar, barely able to feed myself. But when the last girl fell to her knees in front of me and whispered,
"Please, take me. If you walk away, my father will kill me."
I couldn't take it anymore. I simply took her hand and walked away. That's how I got my first wife. And that was only the beginning. Guys, if you haven't seen the previous parts, you'll find the links in the description and the pinned comment. Now, let's get to the story. In the previous part, Qingxiu arrived at the renowned Chui clan of Qinghe, the very one considered the pinnacle among all noble families. His goal was simple yet bold, to take the beautiful Chui Yuanyan into his harem. The family's rules forbade giving legitimate daughters as concubines, but the elder, having heard glowing praise of Qingxiu from Chang Yaojin, decided for the first time in many generations to break tradition. There was only one condition: if you ever harm my granddaughter, the Chui clan will crush you to dust. The wedding was set quietly and without pomp, on the 18th day of the 8th month. Qingxiu rubbed his hands in satisfaction, quick, without costs or trouble, and the result, another beauty at home. Help! A scream like a pig being slaughtered came from the backyard. Chang Yaojin and several people from the Chui family in the alley all jumped to their feet, except for Qingxiu, who had a faint smile on his face. He had already seen from a god's eye view that in the backyard of the Chang residence, ч17 was being chased down by 2 girls. One was Chui Yuyan, and the other was a fake Chui Yuyan. Chui Yuyan held a broom, while the fake Chui Yuyan held a rolling pin. ч17 was covering his head and running for his life. Old Master Chui looked a little stunned and said, "Jijia, I think it's your brat shouting for help. Could it be that your house has been robbed?" Chang Yaojin cursed, "That brat shouting nonsense again? I'll go take a look first." Saying that, Chang Yaojin grabbed a stool and strode out. Old Master Chui, worried that Chang Yaojin might beat the boy too hard, quickly called for Chui Yuyan's parents to follow along. Old Master Chui looked at Qingxiu and asked, "Aren't you going to have a look?" "That's exactly what I was thinking." Qingxiu also got up and followed. When Chang Yaojin arrived in the backyard with the stool, he saw ч17 running all over the yard being chased. In one swift step, he grabbed ч17 by the neck and shouted angrily, "Brat, what did you do to provoke them?" ч17 gave a dry laugh and said, "Dad, I just joked with cousin and little aunt, and they started hitting me. Turns out you were right, Dad, a young lady's temper is really something else." Chang Yaojin glared and said in a low voice, "You brat, how dare you say such things out loud?" Sure enough, Chui Yuyan and Song Qingyu, who were about to calm down, immediately frowned and glared. "What did you say? Not heard enough just now, was it?" ч17's face changed drastically. "Dad, save me." Chang Yaojin said darkly, "Brat, you've offended both of them. Even I can't save you." Then, right in front of everyone, Chang Yaojin directly threw ч17 out. He landed flat on his back, arms and legs in the air. Chui Yuyan and Song Qingyu saw their chance, smiled sweetly, and pounced, giving ч17 a good beating with their broom and rolling pin until he cried for his parents. Qingxiu was dumbfounded. Good heavens, this was his real father? It was hard to imagine how ч17 had grown up in such a family with such a responsible father. Cough, cough. An old, hoarse cough came from behind. Old Master Chui scolded, "Stop it. What kind of proper behavior is it for young ladies to beat someone in public?" Chui Yuyan glanced over, her eyes falling on Qingxiu. Her pretty face instantly flushed red. She hurriedly threw away the broom, covered her face shyly, and ran back to her room. Song Qingyu also tossed the rolling pin onto ч17, clapped her hands, and said with a smile, "Next time you joke like that, I'll hit you again." "Qingyu, you're being ridiculous," scolded Chui Yuyan's mother, Song Qinghong, glaring at her. Song Qingyu returned to her cool demeanor, her lips curved slightly. "Sister, it was just playing around. I didn't use much force. Don't take it seriously. That won't do. This isn't your home. Behave yourself." "Got it." Song Qingyu replied lazily, then looked toward Qingxiu with a slightly unnatural expression. Old Master Chui said to Song Qinghong, "Daughter-in-law, go ask your girl's opinion. If she has no objections, then the matter between her and young Qing is settled." Song Qinghong gave a slight nod and went to find Chui Yuyan, while the others returned to the alley. ч17 had long been used to his father's beatings. Though he looked badly battered, in truth it didn't hurt at all, he was just putting on a show and shouting to attract some sympathy. Soon, Song Qinghong came back with Chui Yuyan, who kept her head down, her face blushing prettily, an endearing sight. This time, Chang Yaojin didn't make Qingxiu cook. Instead, he told his own cook to follow Qingxiu's method to stew a big pot of beef and make a whole table of delicious dishes. After eating and drinking tea, Qingxiu was ready to take his leave, but Cheng Yaojin stopped him with a smile. Nephew, Yuyan hasn't had a chance to walk around Chang'an yet. Since you're free, why not take her out and let her get to know the local customs? Qingxiu gave him a look that clearly said, "You know me too well," and Cheng Yaojin winked in return. Cheng Chumo chimed in, "Yes, yes. The rouge and powder at Qingyu Lane are nice, and Zhao's tailor shop has good craftsmanship. I heard the Zhao family's ancestors were from Jiangnan, so their skills have been passed down. Qingxiu could take my cousin there." Cheng Yaojin smacked him on the head and glared. "You talk too much. The rouge and powder at Qingyu Lane are for courtesans. What proper person would go there?" Cheng Chumo's face turned red. "I say, no rouge or powder anywhere can compare with the cosmetics from Sanha village. Zhao's tailoring is good, but not the best. In my opinion, nephew's Sanha village tailoring is truly unmatched." Cheng Yaojin grinned, showing off the embroidery on his clothes. "Didn't brother-in-law admire this outfit? Look, it's custom made from Sanha village's tailor shop. Cost me dozens of taels of silver." Hiss. Old Master Chui sucked in a breath. "Dozens of taels for one outfit? Son-in-law, are you out of your mind?" Cheng Yaojin explained, "Father-in-law, you may not know, but Sanha village is young Qing's fief. It's even more prosperous than Chang'an. Anything from Sanha village is guaranteed to be the finest in all of Tang." Chui's father looked intrigued. "Brother-in-law, since we're free today, why don't you take us for a visit to Sanha village?" Cheng Yaojin laughed heartily. "Of course. Choer, get the carriage ready, we'll go to Sanha village market this afternoon." Hearing they were going to Sanha village, Cheng Chumo was delighted and immediately ran off to prepare the carriage. Song Qingyu raised an eyebrow and slowly followed him out. She had heard many rumors about Sanha village during her stay in Chang'an, but never had the chance to see it. Cui Yuyan looked at Qingxiu with eager eyes and asked softly, "Can I go see Sanha village too?" "Of course. Sanha village is your future home. Our family's main residence is there. This Chang'an house is only a temporary stop. In a while, we'll be moving to Sanha village for good. This is a good chance to get familiar with your future living environment." At the mention of her future living environment, Cui Yuyan's delicate face turned bright red, and she lowered her head in shyness. Qingxiu found it amusing. For someone who had already been married once, she could still keep such a shy demeanor, truly rare. Not only Chui's father but also old Master Chui was curious about Sanha village and decided to tag along to take a look. "Hey, Choer." Song Qingyu patted Cheng Chumo on the shoulder, leaned against the pillar of the stable, and asked curiously, "Is Sanha village really as amazing as your father says?" Cheng Chumo immediately started talking, grinning. "Of course. Ever since Sanha village became Brother Qing's fief, he's managed it to be even more prosperous than Chang'an." Song Qingyu asked with great interest. "Then tell me, how is Sanha village so prosperous?" Cheng Chumo gestured excitedly as he spoke. "Sanha village is full of red brick, tile roof houses, arranged as neatly as the wards and markets of Chang'an. The main street is even wider than our Zhuke Avenue in Chang'an. On both sides of the street are shops, and in front of the shops are stalls with vendors doing business. These vendors sell all kinds of things you've never seen before, little ant, there's meat flatbread, donkey meat sandwiches, cold skin noodles, fried dough sticks, fried sugar cakes, sparkling water. Just the other day I went there again and found several new snack stalls I'd never seen before, something called egg tarts, and cream cakes. They're absolutely delicious." As he spoke, Cheng Chumo's eyes lit up and saliva began to drip from his mouth. Although Song Qingyu found his unrefined look a bit distasteful, hearing his colorful description still made her a little curious. "What is sparkling water? What is an egg tart? And cream cake? And cold skin noodles?" Facing her questions, Cheng Chumo patiently explained. "Sparkling water is pine needle water, made by fermenting pine needles and adding rock sugar. It tastes very sweet and is very refreshing. I don't know exactly how egg tarts are made, but they're a snack that just became popular recently. And cream cake, sweet, soft, and delicious, the taste is amazing. These are all new foods invented by Brother Qing." Song Qingyu asked in surprise. "You mean these foods were invented by Yuyan's future husband?" "Of course." Cheng Chumo said proudly. "Brother Qing is hard to figure out. Rumor has it in town that he's a disciple of an immortal. He not only invented these foods, but also taught the recipes for free to poor women in the village. These women rely on this skill to get rich, no longer worrying about food or clothing. I heard that Grandma Lu, who sells cold skin noodles, can earn 30 taels of silver in a single month. In the past, that was unimaginable." The curiosity on Song Qingyu's face grew stronger, and she muttered, "Is there really such a kind person in the world?" Cheng Chumo smiled. Little ant, when you go to Sanha village you'll understand what reputation means. Within 10 or 20 miles of Sanha village, there isn't a single villager who doesn't speak well of Brother Ching. Everyone is deeply grateful to him. Before he came to Sanha village, the locals there couldn't even get enough food to eat, and their clothes were full of patches. But ever since he came, everyone lives in brick houses and has a small business to make a living. And the thing I admire most about him, do you know what it is, little ant? What is it? Song Qingyu asked curiously. Cheng-Chumo said with admiration. What I admire most about Brother Ching is that he's not afraid of the powerful, he dares to snatch food from the tiger's mouth. Ah? Song Qingyu's face darkened. Can you be a bit more specific? Cheng-Chumo explained. You know the 7 great clans, even His Majesty is wary of them. Calling them tigers is no exaggeration. It was Brother Ching who proposed free education. Isn't that the same as snatching food from a tiger's mouth? Song Qingyu's beautiful eyes widened in disbelief. Free education? How is that possible? Cheng-Chumo laughed. Little ant, since you've just arrived in Chang'an, it's no wonder you haven't heard about it. Free education has already started in Sanha village. The school there now has over 1,000 students and dozens of teachers. And because he promotes free education, several of the 7 great clans see him as a thorn in their side. You must have heard about the Taiyuan Wang clan and the Fanyang Lu clan being executed to the last member. Yes, I've heard of it. Cheng-Chumo said mysteriously. It wasn't like the rumors say. In fact, those 2 clans were destroyed entirely by Brother Ching's design. Look at the Xingyangzhen clan, have they made any moves recently? No. They've been scared out of their wits and don't dare speak out again. Song Qingyu's breathing quickened. He's that powerful? Cheng-Chumo frowned. Little ant, Luoyang isn't far from Chang'an. You should have heard these stories already. Song Qingyu nodded. I have heard of them, but only that this Marquis of Jin State is good at poetry and business. I didn't expect he'd be this powerful. Tisk, tisk. Cheng-Chumo shook his head. Brother Ching isn't just good at poetry and business, he can also fight wars and train soldiers. 3 months ago, His Majesty had Duke Wei Li Jing train 100,000 new troops according to his methods. Just the other day, at Haishiku, these 100,000 troops shone brilliantly. Facing 200,000 Turkic soldiers, they not only wiped out 110,000 of them, but also captured 2 khans and 90,000 cavalry. After this battle, the Turks can no longer pose any threat to the Tang. Song Qingyu nodded. That's indeed impressive, your father mentioned it at the family banquet on the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival. Just then, a loud roar came from outside. Cheng-Chumo, you little brat. I told you to get the carriage ready, are you planning to spend the winter in the stable? With the shout, Cheng Yaojin, face full of anger, appeared in the stable. Cheng-Chumo quickly led out 2 horses and hurriedly said, Dad, it's ready, it's ready. I was just telling my little aunt about Sanha village. Cheng Yaojin came up and smacked him on the head. Brat! Hurry up and hitch the carriage. Cheng-Chumo shrank his neck and led the horses away. Cheng Yaojin looked at Song Qingyu in surprise. Sister, you're going to Sanha village too? Song Qingyu smiled faintly. Brother-in-law, are you saying I'm not welcome? Heh, nothing like that, I'm just afraid that once you go to Sanha village, you won't want to come back. Song Qingyu shook her head with a smile and didn't say more. The Chang residents prepared 2 carriages, following behind the Qing residents' carriage towards Sanha village. Cheng-Chumo acted as the driver for 1 carriage. Song Qingyu lifted the curtain and came out to sit outside, smiling slightly. Choer, keep telling me about Sanha village. Cheng-Chumo rolled his eyes. Little aunt, forget it. Just now in the stable, because of you, I got several big boot prints on me. Look, you should recognize my dad's big shoe sole, right? Cheng Yaojin pulled at his clothes to show her, making Song Qingyu laugh nonstop. Although Song Qingyu appeared rather aloof, she wasn't truly unapproachable. With people she knew well, she could chat, laugh, and joke around. When they reached the Sanha village boundary, Song Qingyu's beautiful eyes widened as she looked in disbelief at the rows of brick tile houses ahead and the endless stream of people. It really did feel even more prosperous than Chang'an City. In the leading carriage, Cui Yuyan also lifted the curtain to look around curiously, her face showing barely concealed wonder and excitement. She pointed toward Sanha village ahead and asked in surprise, "That's your fief?" Qingxiu smiled and nodded. "Strictly speaking, more than 20 nearby villages are my fief. It's just that my family lives in Sanha village, so this place is a bit more developed than the others." Cui Yuyan's gaze was bright. "I came here a few years ago. Back then, it was still a poor village. I didn't expect that after only a few years, the poor village in my memory would, under your development, become so prosperous. You really are an amazing person." Nothing is more pleasing than a girl's praise. Qingxiu smiled. When we reach the village entrance in a bit, we can walk through. Most of the stall owners on the main street know me. Cui Yuyan's pretty face flushed slightly with excitement, and she nodded gently. Qingxiu boldly raised his hand and slowly placed it on Cui Yuyan's soft, delicate shoulder. Her slender body trembled slightly, but she didn't look back, only the tips of her ears turned even redder, and she leaned a little closer toward him. Taking her acceptance as silent consent, Qingxiu went a step further, gently pulling her into his arms. Cui Yuyan lowered the curtain, glanced at Qingxiu shyly, and made no move to resist. Qingxiu asked in a low voice, "You're going to marry into my home soon. Are you nervous?" Cui Yuyan nodded lightly and said shyly, "A little nervous, but not too much." Qingxiu looked at her lips and said, "Your lips are a bit dry." Cui Yuyan quickly touched them and said, "They are a little dry, maybe because the lunch was too salty. I have lip balm, want to use it?" Lip balm? Cui Yuyan blinked her bright eyes in curiosity. "Is that an ointment to moisten the lips?" That's right." Cui Yuyan nodded. "Okay, then take it out and put some on for me." Qingxiu smiled, then lowered his head and kissed her. Cui Yuyan's beautiful eyes widened in disbelief, her face instantly burning, her mind buzzing. So, this was his lip balm? Held tightly in his arms, Cui Yuyan felt weak all over. The soft, moist sensation on her lips made her heart flutter, and she closed her eyes. Her hands on his chest only made 2 token pushes before giving up. They didn't know how long had passed when Wei Laojiu's voice came from outside the carriage. "Master, we're at the village entrance." Qingxiu finally let her go. Cui Yuyan lowered her head, breathing heavily, her eyes full of shy emotion. Lifting the curtain, Qingxiu said, "Take the carriage back home. I'm going to take Miss Cui around." Wei Laojiu gave him a knowing smile. "All right, master, have fun." After being promoted to duke, the servants and guards at the mansion found it awkward to address him, so they simply called him master. Qingxiu had objected, he was still young, and no young man wanted to be called master, but no matter how he insisted on being called marquis, they refused to change. Though helpless, Qingxiu eventually accepted it. Helping Cui Yuyan down from the carriage, Qingxiu glanced back to see Cheng Yaojin and Cheng Chumo leading several people from the Cui family toward them. Cheng Yaojin came up with a smile. "Nephew, don't worry about us. You go walk with Yuyan, I'll take the others around, and when we're done, we'll come to your house for tea." "All right," Qingxiu nodded. "Let's meet at my place in an hour." Cheng Yaojin knowingly pulled his brother-in-law toward a clothing shop. "Come on, brother-in-law, I had this outfit custom-made here, the craftsmanship is top-notch. You all should take a look. Today I'll order each of you a new set of clothes." In truth, Cheng Yaojin was creating time for Qingxiu and Cui Yuyan to be alone. After all, the main street of Sanha village was only 3 to 4 li long. But Song Qingyu grabbed Cheng Chumo's sleeve. "Choer, don't follow them. You already have more new clothes than you can wear. Come on, take me to look around." Wanting to get a free set of clothes from his father, Cheng Chumo was forced instead to escort Song Qingyu into the street. Soon, Song Qingyu was seated at a cold-skin noodle stall, one hand holding a bowl of sparkling water, the other stirring the noodles with chopsticks. A meat flatbread sat on the side, and her eyes shone with anticipation. Cheng Chumo frowned in distaste. "Little aunt, didn't you already eat lunch? Why are you ordering so much food?" Song Qingyu rolled her eyes. "Can't I eat more if I'm still hungry?" Then she began eating happily. Cheng Chumo was stunned. "I remember you ate the most at lunch, you even soaked your flatbread in beef soup and finished it all. And you say you're still hungry? If you eat this much, you'll get fat and won't be able to marry." "Then I won't marry." That left Cheng Chumo completely speechless. These cold noodles are good, cool and tasty. And what's this red thing? It's so spicy, but it really whets the appetite." Song Qingyu exclaimed between bites. Cheng Chumo said with disdain. "Look at you, like you've never seen the world. That's called chili pepper. It's not originally a tang crop, Brother Qing somehow got it from somewhere, and now a few acres are already being grown here. I'm sure it won't be long before chili peppers spread throughout the tang." "Chili pepper?" Song Qingyu's eyes lit up. "Can you ask him for some? I want to take some back to Luoyang when I leave." Cheng Chumo nodded. "All right, when we get to Brother Qing's house, I'll get a few for you." Before long, Song Qingyu had finished a bowl of cold noodles, a meat flatbread, and a bowl of sparkling water, so full she was hiccuping. Still, she said to Cheng Chumo, "Come on, let's find another shop, take me to eat egg tarts and cream cake." Cheng Chumo's eyes widened in shock. "You're still eating? It's rare to find such delicious food. Of course I have to eat more, once I leave Chang'an, I won't be able to have it again." Cheng Chumo said with a bitter smile. Little ant, if you like Chang'an's food this much, why don't you just find a husband here? That way you can eat it every day. A figure suddenly flashed in Song Qingyu's mind, and she froze for a moment, murmuring. Strange, why did I suddenly think of that guy? Just now, when she heard Cheng-Chumo say she should find a husband in Chang'an, the image of Qingxiu popped into her head, and she didn't even know why. Song Qingyu walked down Sanha village's main street, one hand holding her belly, the other holding an egg tart, eating with her eyes narrowed in enjoyment. Beside her, Cheng-Chumo carried a large piece of cream cake for her. Cheng-Chumo's eyes were full of worry, afraid this gluttonous little ant would eat herself to death. After finishing the egg tart, Song Qingyu burped, looked longingly at the cream cake in Cheng-Chumo's hand, patted her belly, and said helplessly, "Forget it, I won't eat it now. I really can't fit anymore. I'll eat it tonight." Cheng-Chumo breathed a sigh of relief and gave a wry smile. He couldn't believe that such a delicate-looking woman could eat so much, more than him. "Choer," Song Qingyu said with an expectant look, "there are so many kinds of food here in Sanha village, and quite a few restaurants too. Which one has the best food?" Cheng-Chumo looked at her like he'd seen a ghost. "Seriously, little ant? You're already so full you can hardly walk, and you're still thinking about eating?" Song Qingyu's cheeks turned slightly red and she said with some embarrassment, "Can't help it. I've been able to eat a lot since I was young, but I never get fat. Don't be fooled by how much I just ate. Before dinner time I'll be hungry again." "Heavens!" Cheng-Chumo sighed dramatically. "I finally understand why you're still not married. You eat so much, who would dare marry you? You'd eat him out of house and home." Song Qingyu's pretty face turned frosty. "Say that again and I'll hit you with a rolling pin." Cheng-Chumo's mouth twitched. "Let's just talk about the food. Honestly, none of the restaurants here are that amazing, none of them are as tasty as Iway Residence's dishes." Song Qingyu looked a little disappointed. "Haven't we been to Iway Residence several times in the past few days? I've tried all their dishes already. They're okay, but these street foods taste better." Cheng-Chumo suddenly grinned. "The best food isn't at Iway Residence, and it's not from any of these stalls either." "Then where?" Song Qingyu's interest was instantly piqued. Cheng-Chumo pointed to a courtyard not far away. "There." "There? Where is that?" "That's Brother Qing's house. Only the food he cooks himself can truly be called the finest in the world. Every time my father and I come to Sanha village, we find some excuse to eat at his place. Even the simplest ingredients become top-tier delicacies in his hands." Song Qingyu's eyes lit up. "Can we have dinner at his place tonight?" Cheng-Chumo thought for a moment and smiled. "You'll have to ask my father. I don't have the pull to get Brother Qing to cook personally." Song Qingyu immediately turned to leave. "Little ant, where are you going?" "To find your father." Cheng-Chumo opened his mouth but was left speechless. When they reached the clothing shop, Song Qingyu leaned close to Chang Yaojin and whispered shyly, "Brother-in-law, can we have dinner tonight at Yu Yan's husband's home?" Chang Yaojin's mouth twitched, but before he could answer, Song Qinghong frowned and said sharply, "Your bad habit again? Eat, 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 that's all you know all day. Jijia, don't listen to her. This girl's been like this since she was little, she treats food better than her own parents." "I do not." Song Qingyu protested weakly, blushing. "You dare say you don't? The moment you see food, you throw away all face and manners," Song Qinghong scolded. Chang Yaojin chuckled. "Sister-in-law, if she likes to eat, let her eat. Your family's not short on food anyway. Girl, since there's no curfew during the Mid-Autumn Festival and the city gates are open for 3 days, we don't have to worry about getting back too late. Tonight we'll just stay and eat at Young Qing's place." Song Qingyu instantly beamed, while Song Qinghong shook her head repeatedly. Meanwhile, on the street, Qingxiu looked half defeated, and beside him, Cui Yuyan was deeply shocked. The enthusiasm, it was too much. The villagers of Sanha almost blocked the road completely. From 70-year-old grandpas to 7-year-old children, everyone crowded around Qingxiu, talking all at once. Some even shoved things into his arms. "Master, you haven't been to the manor for a while. We heard you went to war and won a battle. Is it true?" "Of course it's true, His Majesty even held a victory banquet for our master. Master's not just a marquis now, he's a duke. Master, take this fish, it's still alive. Make soup for the young madam, it's good for the baby. Master, these eggs are for the young madam's health, hey, don't push, you crushed them. Master, this is my daughter. Isn't she pretty? She's 15 this year. Take her as a maid, if you like her, she can warm your bed tonight too." Cui Yuyan was stunned. My heavens, what kind of wild words were these? Qingxiu was already holding a pile of things in his arms, a vegetable basket hanging from his neck, several pieces of smoked meat draped over his arms, and someone had even placed a pink belly band on his head. His face was full of black lines. Seeing him so bedraggled, Cui Yuyan burst into laughter. After finally squeezing through, another wave of people came. Only after nearly half an hour did Qingxiu manage to send everyone away, now overloaded with goods. Away from the crowd, he sighed helplessly. Ah, what a mess. Cui Yuyan giggled. I didn't believe you when you said you were very popular, but now I do. There's just one thing I don't understand, those old uncles were even trying to push their daughters on you. The local customs here are bold. Qingxiu gave a bitter smile. Come on, let's go home and drop off these ingredients first, then I'll take you out again. Cui Yuyan shook her head with a smile. I don't want to go out anymore. I'm afraid those uncles won't give up and will shove more girls into your arms, delaying our private time. Qingxiu's mouth twitched, and he led her home. When they arrived, a slender figure was lying on a lounge chair in the courtyard, eyes closed in rest. Cui Yuyan glanced curiously and asked, Is this also an older sister? Qingxiu shook his head, walked over, and nudged Lin Feifei's foot. Don't sleep, wake up. Lin Feifei opened her eyes, saw it was Qingxiu, and immediately stood up, looking flustered. Qingxiu frowned. What? Without a tiger in the mountain, the monkey calls itself king? You look way too comfortable, anyone would think this was your home. Lin Feifei's face flushed red. She muttered. I was helping you watch the house. Got tired, so can I rest? Go brew some tea and bring it over. Lin Feifei obediently went to make tea, but before leaving, she curiously glanced several times at Cui Yuyan. Cui Yuyan responded with a friendly smile. Lin Feifei's expression turned slightly resentful, and she thought to herself, the wives haven't even been gone that long, and he's already tricked another girl into coming back? When Lin Feifei finished pouring a few cups of tea, Qingxiu picked up his cup and asked, How's the textile mill business going lately? Not bad, Lin Feifei nodded. So far, the mill has 6 workshops, each with 50 looms. I'm planning to add 4 more workshops. Our fabric is 30% cheaper than what's on the market. Already, over 40% of the cloth shops in Guangzhou buy from Sanha village. We ship out dozens of cartloads almost every day. I believe it won't be long before every cloth shop owner in Guangzhou will be getting their stock from us. Qingxiu asked in surprise. Dozens of cartloads a day, can you keep up with that? Lin Feifei smiled. It's all thanks to your idea. I set up 3 shifts in each workshop so the looms run all day. Even with dozens of cartloads shipped daily, we still have plenty left over. Right now, we've already filled 3 warehouses with fabric. Qingxiu hadn't expected that in just 2 months Lin Feifei could expand the business to such an impressive scale. Cui Yuyan asked curiously. You even started a textile workshop? Is there anything you can't do? There is, Qingxiu said seriously. Having children, I have to leave that to you women. Cui Yuyan's face flushed red. She spat lightly in embarrassment. Shameless. Lin Feifei, watching the two of them bicker flirtatiously, became even more certain that this young lady had also been tricked here by someone. In her heart she called Qingxiu a serial heartbreaker. Qingxiu looked at Lin Feifei with a frown. I think you should slow down a bit. Business growing too fast isn't necessarily a good thing. Growing too fast is bad? How so? She asked in surprise. He explained. If business grows too fast, competitors will feel threatened. Too many people make their living in the weaving trade. If you grow too fast, you'll soon put them out of work. When they can't make a living, they may turn to nasty ideas. Cui Yuyan nodded repeatedly. You're right, Lin Feifei said in shock. These past few days, some shady people have been lurking around the mill. The night of the Mid-Autumn Festival, one workshop even caught fire. Luckily we caught it in time, or the whole place would have burned down. Qingxiu's eyes sharpened. Did anyone sneak into the mill during the commotion? Lin Feifei tilted her head, thinking. The fire was big, and a lot of villagers came to help put it out. I'm not sure if any outsiders with bad intentions were among them. Then that's it. Her heart skipped a beat. What do you mean, that's it? Most likely, in a few days, there will be looms on the market exactly like ours. Your competitors probably set the fire, used the chance to sneak spies inside, and studied your machines. What? Lin Feifei's face went pale. What should we do? If identical looms appear on the market, we'll lose our advantage, and it could seriously hurt the business. That's easy, Qingxiu said with a mysterious smile. Just design a loom that works even faster. Easy for you to say, it's not that simple. Wasn't the loom you're using now made by me? If I could make that, I can make a better one. Hearing that, Lin Feifei's excitement returned. Right, you designed the looms we use now. And you even said you could make a loom several dozen times faster. Cui Yuyan was shocked. You said what? You can make looms? Of course, Lin Feifei explained. The looms in the mill were designed by him, they're more than 5 times faster than traditional looms. 5 times? Chui Yuyan's eyes widened. I'll draw up the plans now and have Carpenter Zhang build one in 3 to 5 days. This new loom will be several dozen times more efficient, Qingxiu said, getting up. He went to his study, drew a few diagrams, and handed them to Lin Feifei. Take these to Carpenter Zhang. Lin Feifei studied the plans. Having grown up in a cloth trading family, she knew looms well. Just picturing it in her mind, she could see the brilliance of the design. Her eyes lit up. My God, you're amazing. You can even design a loom like this, it'll definitely be dozens of times faster. Qingxiu shook his head with a smile. Dozens of times is nothing. I've seen a loom that can produce in one day what your entire mill could in a day. Lin Feifei gasped. There's such a loom? Then why not just make the most advanced one right away? You think it's for fun? That massive thing isn't something one person can make, and some of the requirements can't even be met right now, he said, referring to the electric-powered giants of later times, which could be run by one person with a remote control, but which were impossible to build in the current era. Then why even bring it up? Lin Feifei rolled her eyes. You dare roll your eyes at me? Qingxiu said, and smacked her on the butt. She flinched, her face flushing, eyes full of disbelief. Qingxiu gave a dry laugh. Sorry, habit from hitting my wives. Without a word, Lin Feifei covered her face and ran out of the courtyard. Watching it all, Chui Yuyan asked strangely. She's really just your business partner? Didn't I say? Habit from hitting my wives, it was unintentional. Chui Yuyan thought, yeah right, I totally believe you. At that moment, Cheng Yaojin came in with a group of people, all carrying bags of things. Chui Yuyan's mother, Song Qinghong, was still chattering as she entered the yard. This is such a good place. Now that I've come to Sanha village, I don't even want to leave. The goods here are so much more varied than in Chang'an. Qingxiu smiled faintly. If mother-in-law wishes to stay, I can arrange a brick house nearby for you to live in as long as you like. The words mother-in-law immediately made Song Qinghong beam, though she waved her hand and said no, insisting she was just speaking casually. Haha, dear nephew, it's rare for me to come here, I still feel very nostalgic. Cheng Yaojin walked to the kitchen with a smile, and when he came out, he had a bottle of chilled beer in his hand, his face full of joy. When Song Qingyu saw Cheng Yaojin take a sip of beer and show an expression of enjoyment, her throat moved twice involuntarily, and she stared fixedly at the glass bottle in his hand. Then she tugged at Cheng Chumo's sleeve, licked her lips, and whispered, Choer, what is your father drinking? Beer. What kind of wine is beer? Cheng Chumo whispered, it's a kind of liquor brewed exclusively by Brother Qing. It's not strong, but if you drink too much it makes your stomach bloated. Still, it's cold, tasty, and very refreshing. Song Qingyu's face showed that she really wanted a bottle. Master Chui looked here and there, then nodded in satisfaction with a smile. Qing boy, your courtyard is really nice, and you've even opened a vegetable plot in the yard. Truly a great place for retirement. Cheng Yaojin's eyes lit up, and he immediately said with a smile, since father-in-law likes this place, why don't we have a simple dinner here tonight? What do you think, dear nephew? Qingxiu's mouth twitched, and before he could speak, Song Qingyu impatiently said, that's a great idea, I agree. Master Chui smiled and nodded, since no one objects, let's stay and have a simple meal. Qingxiu wanted to speak but held back, then reluctantly nodded, all right, I'll have the cook prepare some ingredients. Cheng Yaojin quickly said, dear nephew, since it's rare for me to visit your old home, my stomach's greedy worm is already crying out. Why don't you personally cook 10 or so dishes to make do? Qingxiu looked as if he'd seen a ghost. 10 or so dishes to make do? You call that making do? Since I introduced such a good wife to you, you should cook for us once yourself. I even dream about your cooking. As for the cost of ingredients, I'll cover it. Cheng Yaojin patted his chest as he promised. Unable to withstand Cheng Yaojin's persistent persuasion, Qingxiu had no choice but to agree. By dusk, he went into the kitchen, and after a few kicks from Cheng Yaojin, Cheng Chumo sulkily went in to help. While picking vegetables, Cheng Chumo whispered, Brother Qing, don't be mad at my father. Actually, it wasn't him who wanted you to cook. I'm not that petty, Qingxiu said, puzzled, if it wasn't your father, then who was it? Cheng Chumo said speechlessly, who else? My foodie little aunt. You wouldn't believe it, after lunch at my place and visiting Sanha village, she ate a plate of cold noodles, a meat bun, 3 bowls of soda water, 12 egg tarts, and before coming in this afternoon, she even had a 2 1 kilogram, cream cake. Qingxiu's face was full of shock. Really? She can eat that much? You're not lying to me. He really couldn't imagine such a delicate and thin girl, already full, still eating cold noodles, a meat bun, drinking 3 bowls of soda water, 12 egg tarts, and a 2-gene cream cake. In modern times, she could definitely be a food live streamer. ч17 gave a wry smile. Why would I lie? It's true. You can't imagine how scary it was. I was shocked at the time. No wonder she can't get married. Who would dare marry someone who eats like that? If you bring her home, won't she eat you out of house and home? So, Brother Ching, you can cook fewer dishes tonight, but the portions must be big, otherwise there won't be enough. Ching Xiu suddenly became interested and nodded with a smile. All right, I want to see how much she can eat. So he made a big pot of beef and potato stew, a pot of braised pork trotters with soybeans, a pot of cornmeal porridge, and over 20 large pancakes stuffed with egg, chili, and scallions, plus a few very tasty side dishes to go with drinks. A big pot of crayfish was a must, and also a large plate of peanuts. When the dishes were served, even Chang Yaojin was stunned. He looked at Ching Xiu in disbelief. Dear nephew, are you feeding pigs? Master Cui was also shocked. Good heavens, Ching boy, do you always cook such large portions? Ching Xiu shook his head with a laugh. Chumo said he was especially hungry and eating a lot lately, so I prepared a bit more. I'm not sure it's even enough. The dishes are all ready, let's eat. After speaking, Ching Xiu glanced at Song Qingyu. Song Qingyu was also looking at him, and when she noticed his gaze, her face instantly turned red. She then glared at ч17, her eyes almost spitting fire. ч17 pretended not to notice. At first, Ching Xiu didn't fully believe ч17's words, but when he saw Song Qingyu eating, he was convinced. Song Qingyu, as if no one else was there, rolled up her sleeves, her chopsticks never stopping, eyes locked on the food on the table. Even with 6 pairs of eyes staring at her, she didn't notice. Song Qinghong held her forehead, blushing, and gently stepped on Song Qingyu's foot, whispering, "Tone it down." Song Qingyu looked around, saw everyone staring at her, blushed, lowered her head, and slowed her pace. But even at a slower pace, she never stopped. The meal lasted a full hour, and every plate and bowl on the table was empty. My heavens! Chang Yaojin was shocked. She can eat more than me. Master Cui said in a trembling voice, 8 pancakes bigger than a face, 3 bowls of porridge, 7 bowls of beef, 6 pork trotters, several plates of vegetables. Child, how many years have you gone without eating? ч17 swallowed hard and asked worriedly, Little ant, are you okay? Don't eat yourself to death. At this point, Song Qingyu didn't care about face anymore. Once she started eating, she had gone all in. Seeing so many shocked eyes on her, she blushed slightly, looking shy, and said, I've never had such delicious food in my life. Can I say, this is the fullest meal I've had since I was a child? Song Qinghong said awkwardly, sorry for making you all laugh. My little sister has been like this since childhood, always hungry. We couldn't do anything about it, and I didn't expect she'd still be like this when grown up. Being able to eat is a blessing, being able to eat is a blessing. Chang Yaojin quickly nodded and repeated twice. Ching Xiu's mouth twitched. How is this a blessing? This is practically a pig. Outside Chang'an City, in a dense forest along the official road, several members of the Goguryeo mission were gathered, speaking in low voices. Ever since they entered that village, they haven't come out. They probably won't come out tonight, right? Sitting cross-legged under a tree, Yun Gaisaman stared silently at the moonlit road. A Goguryeo envoy beside him whispered, General Gaisaman, why don't we just go to that village, kidnap the person, and flee back to Goguryeo? Yun Gaisaman opened his eyes, glanced at the envoy, and said coldly, that would be an unwise decision. Our purpose in coming out tonight is not to kidnap anyone, but to scout the surrounding situation in advance. Besides, that is his fief. Even if it's not heavily guarded, there must be many sharp-eyed informants active around the village. Going there rashly would only alert the enemy. The envoy frowned. We're going back to Goguryeo in a few days, General. You've seen the Tang's new weapons. With such incredible power, even 200,000 elite Turkic cavalry can't withstand them. If the Tang army uses these exploding weapons to attack a city, no matter how solid Pingqing and Baiqing are, they might not be able to hold. Yes, General. The longer we delay, the more disadvantageous it is for Goguryeo. Yun Gaisaman said helplessly, even if the situation becomes more unfavorable, we can't act rashly. We should return and make long-term plans, at least wait for a moment when he's alone. Leave 2 informants to pass on news, the rest follow me back to the post house to rest. He left 2 informants and led the others back to the Chang'an post house. After Chang Yaojin escorted the Cui family to the Chang residence, Song Qingyu, still burping, rolled her eyes and asked, who will be going to deliver the bride tomorrow? Chang Yaojin replied, just let her aunt go. Song Qingyu said expectantly. Wouldn't it be a bit too few people? Otherwise, others might think Yuran's family has no one. Chang Yaojin said irritably, this is taking a concubine, not a full wedding with 3 matchmakers, 6 formalities, and 8 carried sedan chairs. What's the need for so many people? No way, Song Qingyu shook her head firmly. I'm Yuran's little aunt after all. I can't let outsiders look down on her. I have to go deliver the bride tomorrow too. Cheng Chumo looked at her oddly. Little aunt, you're not just planning to get a free lunch tomorrow noon and then come back, are you? Song Qingyu's expression stiffened, her face slightly red in the dark. She quickly shook her head. Of course not. I just purely want to go deliver the bride, nothing else. Old Master Chui waved his hand. All right, if she wants to go, then count her in. It's late, everyone should rest. Once Old Master Chui spoke, no one else said anything more. They greeted each other and went to their rooms to sleep. The next morning, 2 festive red, double happiness, characters were pasted again on the gates of the Qing residence, causing the passing townsfolk to whisper and point. What's going on? Didn't the Marquis of Protecting the Nation's red wedding characters just get taken down yesterday? Why are they up again today? It's the Duke of Protecting the Nation now. Yes, he's already the Duke of Protecting the Nation. Could it be that the Duke is marrying again? Marrying again? No way, didn't he just marry the Princess of Xiangqing a few days ago? Who knows? Maybe he felt it wasn't festive enough without the red characters, so he had them put up again. As the townsfolk chatted, the gates of the Qing residence opened wide, and a tall jujube red horse pulling a red-topped carriage came out. The onlookers stepped aside. Once the carriage was far away, the crowd dispersed. This time taking a concubine was much simpler, just a straightforward process. At the Chui residence, where the Chui parents were staying, they dressed Chui Yuran in red and sent her into the carriage. Her eyes were slightly red, clearly having just cried. Chui mother's eyes were also red as she told Qing Xiu some words of entrusting her daughter, urging him to treat her well. Chui father said nothing, just smiled, patted Qing Xiu on the shoulder, nodded, and glanced at the carriage, signaling him to set off quickly to avoid missing the auspicious time. Madame Chui got into the carriage with Song Qingyu. Qing Xiu cupped his hands in farewell to everyone, mounted his horse, and led the carriage away from the Chui residence. When they arrived at the Qing residence and entered through the gates, inside were gathered Qing Xiu's wives and concubines, led by Su Xiaochun. Each was as beautiful as a flower, with stunning looks, a group of top beauties. The sight left Song Qingyu staring in a daze. Although she'd seen them on mid-autumn night, she hadn't looked closely. Now, seeing clearly, she couldn't help but sigh inwardly at Qing Xiu's remarkable good fortune. How come there are even 2 of aunt age? Her gaze fell on Leng Yuqing and Lu Yunyan, her eyes full of curiosity. Qing Xiu dismounted and helped Chui Yuran down from the carriage. Su Xiaochun smiled and stepped forward, signaling to a few servants carrying trays. The lead servant stepped up with a tray. Su Xiaochun lifted the red cloth on the tray, revealing a set of gold jewelry, bracelets, earrings, and a hairpin, alongside 4 gold ingots wrapped in red silk. She helped Chui Yuran put on the jewelry, saying, "Once you enter the Qing residence, you are part of the Qing family. From now on, we are one family. I wish you and your husband love and companionship until old age." "Thank you, elder sister." Chui Yuran understood the etiquette of acknowledging the senior wife and thanked her after accepting the gift. Su Xiaochun then gave the 4 red silk-wrapped gold ingots, 2 each, to Madame Chui and Song Qingyu, who accepted them happily, as gold ingots were like red envelopes in later times. Next was Yunyang. Yunyang was experienced in this, she had done the same when Changsun Pingting entered the house. But when Yunyang lifted the red cloth from her tray, Chui Yuran's mouth dropped open, her face full of disbelief. Yunyang's pretty face flushed as she smiled and handed the tray over, saying, "Younger sister, may you bear noble sons early." On the tray were a gold jujube, a gold peanut, a gold longan, and 6 gold melon seeds. Chui Yuran's face turned bright red, shyly glancing at everyone around. Madame Chui held her forehead with a helpless smile. "Goodness, you really dared to give that, 6 gold melon seeds." In the Tang dynasty, this wasn't something you casually gifted. The number of gold melon seeds represented the number of children expected in the future. Chui Yuran felt like crying without tears. Did they think she was a breeding sow? Yunyang looked a little embarrassed and said, "Sister Chui, I don't know how many children you want to have in the future. If I give too few, I'm afraid you won't be happy, so I can only give more. At worst, you can just have more children later." Qing Xiu's mouth twitched. Chui Yuran said blankly, Thank you, elder sister." Next was Changsun Pingting, who also gave a set of jewelry, but hers was inlaid with jade, gold inlaid with jade. Li Yuqing gave a golden thread embroidered sachet, with a unique fragrance she blended herself. Lu Yunyan and Li Yuchan also gave congratulatory gifts in turn. As for the princess of Xiangqing, she was no exception. She gave a jade ruby as long as a child's arm, so extravagantly that it was shocking. Just that one jade ruby made Madame Chui's heart tremble. This must be a treasure from the royal vault. Cui Yuran thanked them all one by one. Qing Xiu said to Madame Cui, "Aunt, the bride giving is complete. I'll send someone to take you back to the Chang residence." I'll trouble you then, dear nephew," Madame Cui nodded. But Song Qingyu hurriedly tugged at Madame Chui's sleeve, and Madame Cui remembered their conversation on the way. It was nothing special. Song Qingyu had told Madame Cui that no matter what, she had to stay and have lunch here before leaving. Madame Cui couldn't help but laugh, and said to Qing Xiu, "How about this, I'll go back first, and let Yuran's little aunt stay here. The two of them are very close, and since Yuran is marrying out, she surely can't bear to part. Let her stay and keep Yuran company. In the afternoon, I'll arrange for a carriage to pick her up." Qing Xiu felt amused but still nodded in agreement. He had already guessed Song Qingyu's reason for staying. It must be that the greedy worm in her stomach was acting up again. However, today was a wedding day. Even though it was only taking a concubine, as the groom, he couldn't possibly cook himself. Fortunately, the Qing residence's cooks were among the first batch he had trained. Their skills were almost the same as his. The women gathered together chatting privately, leaving Qing Xiu in peace to lie under the big tree in the back courtyard and sip tea. The women led Cui Yuran to a room. "Sister Cui, from now on this will be your room. Everything has been prepared for you." "Thank you, elder sisters." Changsun Pingting walked to the bed, looked carefully, and said in surprise, Why is there no chastity cloth?" Yunyang went over and whispered, "She's already been married once, why would she need a chastity cloth?" The so-called chastity cloth was an ancient item used to prove a bride's purity. Its purpose was simple, used to catch the red stain. Cui Yuran's face turned red, and she stammered, still prepare one." Su Xiaochun tilted her head in confusion. "What do you need that for?" Li Yuqing blinked in surprise. "Don't tell me you're still?" Cui Yuran shyly nodded. That stunned everyone. "Good heavens, really?" Su Xiaochun said in shock. "Didn't Uncle Cheng say you remarried after being widowed? You mean you're still an untouched maiden?" Cui Yuran had to explain again, and then they understood. It turned out her late husband had died before they had the chance to consummate the marriage. "Tsk tisk." Changsun Pingting said in disbelief. "This is truly something both sad and lucky. For something like this to happen and for our husband to be the one to meet it, his luck is incredible." Li Yuchan leaned in curiously. "Miss Cui, so you're still completely untouched, knowing nothing at all?" Cui Yuran became flustered and looked awkward. Changsun Pingting giggled. "Why not let Yunyang stay tonight and teach her well?" The princess of Xiangqing pulled her away with a roll of her eyes. "What are you stirring things up for? Tonight, of course, the husband will teach her himself. How could it be Yunyang's turn?" Su Xiaochun pursed her lips. "I think Yunyang should at least pass on some experience. Come on, let's go out. Yunyang, you stay." With that, Su Xiaochun shooed everyone out. Yunyang was dumbfounded. "Why me?" When everyone left, they thoughtfully closed the door. Cui Yuran blushed, pointed at the bed, and said, "Yunyang, please sit." Yunyang didn't hold back, she walked over and sat down. Cui Yuran sat beside her, then looked at her with innocent eyes and said, "Yunyang, please teach me. I will study well." Yunyang was speechless. Why is it always me who ends up being the bold one? So she began teaching Cui Yuran step by step. Cui Yuran listened attentively, even gesturing along with her hands. From time to time she exclaimed, "It can be done like that? My goodness, you mean here?" Cui Yuran pointed to her own small mouth, eyes wide in disbelief. "Of course you can." Cui Yuran's face turned scarlet. She stammered, "Can we change to another place? I really can't bring myself to do it." Yunyang sighed. "Ah, Sister Cui, don't be silly. Which of them isn't better than you at this? This is a great way to win a man's heart. I don't teach this lightly to just anyone." Cui Yuran thought for a moment, then nodded with difficulty. "All right then, Yunyang, I'll do as you say." By the time Yunyang came out of Cui Yuran's room, an entire hour had passed. At noon, when Qing Xiu told the cooks to prepare lunch, he specifically reminded them to make larger portions, otherwise there wouldn't be enough. Truthfully, he was looking forward to seeing his wives' and concubines' shocked expressions after witnessing Song Qingyu eat. Finally, it was time to eat. The whole family sat neatly at the table, even Jiang Yener, who was sometimes bedridden, was there. She had recovered well and looked much healthier. Apart from Song Qingyu, everyone here knew Jiang Yener's situation. They not only felt sorry for her health, but were also touched by her deep affection for Qingxiu. So everyone here cared for her meticulously, which made her feel flattered. Yenner, here, try this. You should eat more. Look at her, she can eat so much. In no time at all, she's already eaten 3 bowls of rice. You should also eat more, so you can recover soon, and then we can pick an auspicious day for the husband to marry you too. Su Xiaochun, while serving Jiang Yenner vegetables, spoke and compared her to Song Qingyu. Song Qingyu seemed to see only the food in front of her, whether she heard the words or not was unclear. She just kept her head down, eating quickly, with a face full of happiness and satisfaction. Gradually, everyone put down their chopsticks and stared at Song Qingyu seriously. Then came surprise, then shock. Good heavens, she can really eat, she's practically a pig. Master, His Majesty sent someone to inform you to enter the palace this afternoon. Before the meal was even finished, the lame gatekeeper old Lu limped in and told Qingxiu the news. Understood, you may leave. After old Lu left, Qingxiu wiped his mouth, stood up, and said, I need to go to the palace, you all continue eating. Husband, go quickly, don't keep Sister Cui waiting too long, Su Xiaochun kindly reminded. The reminder was fine, but as soon as she said it, Cui Yuran became extremely shy. Got it, don't worry, I'll come back once I'm done, Qingxiu smiled, then ordered a carriage to head to the imperial palace. In the Hall of Supreme Harmony, besides Li Er, there were also Changsun Wuji and Fang Xianling. Qingxiu cupped his hands toward Li Er and said, I don't know why your majesty has summoned me to the palace. Li Er's expression was not very good, but he still forced a smile and said, Beloved subject, sit first. I called you here to discuss something. After Qingxiu sat down, Li Er looked at him and said, due to pressure from the Turks, trade routes between Guangzhou and Shandong are not very smooth. Highwaymen run rampant on these routes, and merchants are always at risk of being robbed or killed. This has led to very few salt merchants traveling from Shandong to Guangzhou. With few salt merchants, the price of salt remains high. Though I want to transport salt from Shandong, both the green salt mines and sea salt extraction methods are controlled by powerful Shandong families. I am powerless in this matter. Although Longxi and Longdong also have salt mines, they are poisonous salts containing deadly toxins. Edible coarse salt is extremely scarce. This coarse salt barely meets military needs and cannot be sold to the common people. Salt is as precious as gold. Coarse salt costs 300 to 400 copper coins per gene, green salt as much as 500. As for refined salt, it is rarely circulated. Not only commoners, even I can't bear to eat it, only using it for daily mouth rinsing. Qingxiu asked in puzzlement, why is your majesty telling me this? I'm not a salt merchant. Changsun Wuji said, son-in-law, you don't know. After the Turks were defeated and His Majesty sent troops to eliminate bandits, the highwaymen along the Shandong trade route became terrified and hid in the mountains, so the route is now fully open. Considering the people's difficulty in obtaining salt, His Majesty wanted to negotiate with Shandong salt merchants to lower the price, but salt is the foundation of the big Shandong families. They not only rejected His Majesty's proposal, they even raised the price of sea salt. Li Er's face darkened. These greedy salt merchants, just to make more money, don't put me in their eyes at all. Qingxiu asked, so what is your Majesty's purpose in summoning me? Li Er gave a bitter smile. You have a talent for business. I want to hear your opinion, to see if you have a way to lower the price of salt. My request is not high, just enough so that ordinary households can eat slightly cleaner salt. Salt is too expensive. The salt people eat is brown lumps with a pungent smell and deadly toxins. Eating too much causes purple sickness, weakness, diarrhea, and strong men are worn out by their 30s or 40s. But people can't live without salt, sigh. Li Er continued, when you were in Sanha village, you must have seen how poor people ate, soaking pickled vegetables in vinegar-soaked cloth to make vinegar cloth, squeezing out a little juice to mix with dry food. Over time, who can stand it? Seeing Qingxiu silent, Li Er patted his chest. Duke of Zhen, my request isn't high. If you can make Shandong salt merchants cut the price in half, I can even give you 20% of the money I spend on buying salt. Qingxiu quickly shook his head. Your Majesty, I dare not touch a penny of such national crisis profits. But to have the price of salt at once, has your Majesty not woken up yet? He gave a bitter smile. Li Er rolled his eyes. In the whole world, the only one who dares joke with me is you. Qingxiu said, I'm not joking. As the saying goes, cutting off a man's livelihood is like killing his parents. Those salt merchants are not afraid of your Majesty's authority, and even raised prices for more profit. That means it's impossible to persuade them to lower prices willingly. Li Er said worriedly, what should we do? Duruhue's health was ruined back then from eating too much poisonous salt, now he struggles to walk a few steps. I don't want to see, after opening the salt trade, that the commoners still can't afford salt. Changsun Wuji and Fang Xianling looked gloomy. After thinking for a moment, Qingxiu said, Your Majesty, I do have a way to make all Tang people able to eat clean, hygienic, and healthy salt. Li Er's tiger eyes widened as he jumped up. Are you serious? You're not lying to me. Qingxiu nodded. Of course. Li Er was excited. Duke of Zhen, if what you say is true and all the people can eat clean, healthy salt, I can abdicate and pass the throne to you. Qingxiu's face changed, and he shook his head quickly. Absolutely not. I don't want to be emperor, getting up earlier than the chickens and sleeping later than the dogs. Such a tiring job is not for me. Changsun Wuji and Fang Xuanling's mouths twitched. Li Er muttered, up earlier than chickens, sleep later than dogs? Crude words but true. Since becoming emperor, I really haven't had a full night's sleep. Tell me, what do you want? Li Er stared at Qingxiu. Qingxiu smiled. I don't want 30 or even 10% profit. If I can make all the people afford safe salt, just give me 5 copper coins for every gene of salt sold. Li Er's eyes widened, his breath quickened. That's it? Yes, just that little request. Li Er slapped his thigh, his face flushed. If you can do what you say, forget 5 copper coins, I'll give you 10. Qingxiu smiled faintly and shook his head. No need for 10, 5 is enough. Haha, fine, deal. Li Er laughed heartily, rubbing his hands in anticipation. Come on, Duke of Zhen, let me understand your idea. Changsun Wuji and Fang Xianling also pricked up their ears. Qingxiu said seriously, I can extract clean, hygienic fine salt from poisonous salt, finer and cleaner than any salt on the market. What did you say? Li Er shouted, suddenly feeling his vision go black and the world spin. This news was so shocking to him, it was even more explosive than the news of the Turks' defeat. Changsun Wuji shivered and said, Son-in-law, you can't speak carelessly. For thousands of years, no one has ever extracted fine salt from poisonous salt. Generations of wise men have failed to do it. Don't take on too much. His face was full of worry. He was truly afraid that if Qingxiu failed to extract edible salt, he would be beheaded and put on display, leaving his own daughter a widow. Even if the punishment wasn't that severe, at the very least it would mean losing his title, being dismissed from office, and exiled to Lingnan. Qingxiu smiled. A gentleman's word is as hard to take back as 4 horses chasing it. Extracting salt, this is a small matter to me. Li Er also shivered and said, Fuji, rest assured. Even if the Duke of Zhen fails to extract edible salt, I won't make things difficult for him. Duke of Zhen, when do you plan to extract the salt? Qingxiu said, right now. Right now? Li Er exclaimed in surprise, his face full of disbelief. Qingxiu nodded. I need a large iron pot, gauze, an iron hammer, a millstone, several wooden buckets, and items for heating the pot. Oh, and several buckets of water, plus several dozen gene of poisonous salt. I'll have people prepare them immediately. Li Er, excited, immediately sent people to gather everything. Then they went to a secluded spot in the Taiji Palace, arranging many guards nearby. When everything was ready, Qingxiu used the iron hammer to crush the fist-sized brown salt lumps, then put them into the millstone to grind into powder. When about 10 gene of poisonous salt had been ground into powder, he poured it all into a water bucket. Then he covered another wooden bucket with several layers of gauze, stirred the poisonous saltwater well, and poured it into the bucket with the filter. The brine in the filtered bucket instantly became much lighter in color. Seeing this, Li Er, Changsun Wuji, and Fang Xianling all gaped, their breathing quickening. Fang Xianling said excitedly, Your Majesty, I think this will work. Changsun Wuji said, Take out the word, think, I say it will work. Li Er rubbed his hands and nodded, his voice trembling. I also think it will work. Qingxiu had made salt no less than 10 times before, so his operations were smooth and practiced. After filtering the poisonous brine several times, it turned pure white, even faintly transparent. That's about it. Light the fire under the pot, Qingxiu ordered. He then poured a bucket of the filtered brine into the large iron pot and began boiling it down over a high flame. After finishing, Qingxiu clapped his hands and smiled. That's it. In about an hour, when the water has fully evaporated, the refined salt will be ready. Li Er said in disbelief, It's that simple? Yes, just that simple. Li Er opened his mouth and, after a long while, said with frustration, Heavens, such a simple process has troubled our people for thousands of years. I never thought making salt could be so simple. Suddenly, Li Er grabbed Qingxiu by the collar, eyes red, gritting his teeth. You brat, if you had this method of making salt, why didn't you hand it over earlier? When did you start making salt? Qingxiu looked innocent. Your Majesty, you wrong me. I only figured it out yesterday. The villagers in Sanha asked me to make some brine for a small business, and while tinkering with it, I happened to stumble upon it. Li Er released him reluctantly, straightened his clothes, and said apologetically, I got a bit too excited. Changsun Wuji quickly said, Doesn't your Majesty know him by now? How could our son-in-law be the kind of man who hides things? Yes, yes. Li Er nodded quickly. I misunderstood you, son-in-law. I apologize, truly. Qingxiu chuckled. Instead of apologizing, it's better to think about how to get this salt into the hands of the people. Yes, yes, you're right. I want to hear your thoughts. Faced with the three men's eager gazes, Qingxiu stroked his chin and said, In my opinion, households have limited money. An ordinary family that farms earns only a few strings of coins a year. It's impossible for them to spend a year's income on 1 jin of salt. And your Majesty can't count on selling salt to fill the state treasury. For a family of 3, 2 liang of salt a month is enough. I suggest setting the price at a level that everyone can afford. Li Er asked urgently, What price do you think is appropriate? Qingxiu raised 2 fingers and waved them. 20 copper coins per jin at most. 20 copper coins? Li Er's whole body trembled with excitement. Qingxiu smiled. And at 20 coins, there's still plenty of profit. Your Majesty controls nearly all salt mines in Tang territory. With only labor costs, we can produce huge quantities of edible salt. The cost per jin is at most 1 coin. Even if you sell salt for 5 coins a jin, it's still a sure profit. In fact, the revenue from salt at 5 coins a jin would exceed the total tax revenue from all the people. Li Er's eyes widened. No wonder you asked for a 5-coin commission per jin. Qingxiu asked nervously, Your Majesty won't go back on that, will you? Li Er thought for a moment, then shook his head with a smile. 5 coins it is. I'm not a petty man. Besides, this salt-making method came from you, 5 coins is actually little. And the main profit still stays with me. Haha. Suddenly, Qingxiu's expression turned sly. Your Majesty, since the black-hearted Shandong salt merchants are so ungrateful and maliciously raised the price of salt, such despicable behavior shouldn't be left unpunished. Li Er's eyes lit up, smiling. Duke of Zhen, what do you suggest we do? Qingxiu gave a mysterious smile. Quickly make salt and stockpile tens of millions of jin. Sell it to those salt merchants for 3 coins a jin. After taking their money and delivering the goods, your Majesty should immediately order the sale of official salt and set a law that the price cannot exceed 30 coins a jin. What do you think? Li Er's mouth twitched nonstop. Fang Xianling sucked in a sharp breath. Changsun Wuji's eyes widened. You're trying to ruin those salt merchants completely. Li Er came back to his senses, displeased. Fuji, how can you call that ruining? Those Shandong merchants control the salt supply and have been making a fortune for years, earning who knows how much black money. What we're doing is taking from the rich to give to the poor. Exactly. Qingxiu nodded. This is called a business tactic. Li Er asked eagerly, Duke of Zhen, make a detailed plan. Qingxiu thought for a moment, then smiled. First, find a frontman to establish contact with the Shandong salt merchants. Once contact is made, sell them the salt. After the deal is done, immediately move to the next step, make sure the high-priced salt they bought rots in their hands. As he finished, Qingxiu looked at Changsun Wuji. Li Er reflexively looked at Changsun Wuji too. Changsun Wuji's heart skipped a beat, the corner of his mouth twitched, and a bad premonition welled up inside him. Shoot the bird that sticks its head out, and I'm the bird, aren't I? Changsun Wuji pointed at his own nose in disbelief. So, I'm the one who's going to be the public face for this? At that moment, Fang Xianling deliberately looked away, as if silently telling Li Er, You can't see me, you can't see me. This kind of thing came with very high risks. Once the powerful clans of Shandong bore a grudge, it would be terrifying. Going out would mean facing constant targeting and assassination attempts, the danger no less than being on Li Er's bad side. Li Er smiled warmly. Fuji, in my eyes, you are the most suitable candidate. Changsun Wuji said bitterly, Your Majesty, this is no small matter. Those salt merchants are blinded by greed. If I offend them all, just going out will be a problem in the future, I might even lose my life. Let's find someone else. Li Er nodded. All right then. I was originally planning to give you a 3-coin profit per jin of salt, but if you're not interested, forget it, I'll find someone else. Changsun Wuji's eye twitched a few times, then he immediately put on a solemn expression. Your Majesty, I am not someone who covets petty gains, but I do understand the principle of serving loyally when taking the ruler's pay. Since your Majesty trusts me, I will dedicate myself to the task and only die after my duty is done. Fang Xianling sniffed, shuffled 2 steps away, and even rolled his eyes. Li Er, moved, grasped Changsun Wuji's hand. To have such a virtuous minister as you, Fuji, is truly my fortune. Remember, you're not doing this for me, you're doing it for the people of the world. Qing Xiu, watching from the side, almost gagged. They were all born actors. But Li Er looked at Qing Xiu with a sly smile. This 5-coin per gene commission isn't so easy to take. Fuji's ability alone is limited, but the Duke of Zhen is highly capable. Why not assist Fuji in handling this important matter? Qing Xiu opened his mouth, then shook his head decisively. Your Majesty, I am still young. In dealing with people, how could I compare with my father-in-law? Better not. Li Er gave a sinister smile and sighed. Ah, if I give Fuji a 3-coin profit, won't all my effort be for nothing? Here's what we'll do. I'll contribute 1 coin to support Fuji's work, and Duke of Zhen, you should also make a small gesture, otherwise outsiders will say you're stingy. Qing Xiu stared at Li Er as if seeing a ghost, then suddenly cupped his hands and said, Your Majesty, as the saying goes, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. This salt-making plan was proposed by me, and the idea of, not cheating, not tricking, well, of doing business with the salt merchants also came from me. For me not to be involved wouldn't make sense. Besides, I'm already getting a 5-coin commission for nothing. For the sake of that commission, I'm determined to wade into these muddy waters. Since father-in-law is joining in, it would be too stingy of your Majesty to give him only 1 coin of profit, wouldn't it? Li Er's mouth twitched, then he smiled. Then I'll take 3 coins from my 15-coin share and give them to Fuji. Qing Xiu smiled in return, also with a sly look. In that case, it's settled. Now, let's talk about how to split the profit from selling salt to the merchants at 300 coins per gene. Li Er's face immediately darkened. Didn't we just agree? Qing Xiu feigned confusion. Yes, we just agreed on who would be the public face. Now that's decided, we should talk about how to split the 300 coins. Veins bulged on Li Er's forehead, and he laughed in exasperation. Baron of Lantian, Qing Xiu, are you serious? Qing Xiu was furious. Was Li Er threatening to strip his title? He waved his hand. Forget it, Your Majesty. We're going to great lengths to provide the people with safe salt, and it's a thankless job. Better to teach people how to fish than give them fish. I suggest we just announce the method of extracting salt to the whole world, so people don't have to buy it at all. This would be a great act, and I think when the decree is issued, the people will all praise Your Majesty's glorious achievements. Li Er glared at Qing Xiu, breathing hard, his nostrils almost spitting fire. After a long pause, he kicked over a wooden bucket and cursed, Both of you, the old one's got his eyes on money, the young one's got his eyes on money too. 20 coins, not a coin more. Qing Xiu grinned and bowed. Many thanks for Your Majesty's kindness. Then he smirked at Changsun Wuji and motioned toward Li Er. Changsun Wuji's eyes lit up instantly. He bowed to Li Er and said, Thank you for the reward, Your Majesty. A commission of 20 coins per gene for both me and the Duke of Zhen. Your Majesty is truly generous, I thank you. Li Er almost tripped, his nose nearly twisting from anger. Fuji, Ino. I never said 20 coins for you, don't flatter yourself. Changsun Wuji looked aggrieved. Li Er, seeing no way out, waved his hand. Fine, 30 coins, no more. Fang Xianling first looked envious, then sighed. So I'm just extra here. Coming here was a waste of time. What did you do? Li Er, Qing Xiu, and Changsun Wuji all said in unison. Fang Xianling blushed and waved his hand. Just sighing, that's all. Salt's ready. The guard tending the pot shouted in surprise, and everyone quickly gathered around. Inside the large iron pot, most of the water had evaporated, leaving a thick layer of white crystals at the bottom. Seeing this, Qing Xiu ordered, simmer it dry over low heat. The guard quickly adjusted the fire. After another half hour, the water had completely evaporated. Qing Xiu used an iron spatula to scoop out all the dried salt blocks, then ground them into fine granules with a small millstone. In no time, he had a large basin full. Weighing it, they got 26 gene of fine salt. Hearing the number, Li Er was so excited he jumped high, slapped his thigh, and said, Heavens! 26 gene of fine salt from 30 gene of poisonous salt? Fang Xianling trembled as he picked up a pinch and put it in his mouth. Even though the saltiness twisted his expression, he couldn't bear to spit it out, not caring if he turned into a bat. Changsun Wuji and Li Er also tasted it. Changsun Wuji's eyes lit up. Your Majesty, this fine salt is truly refined, purer than any on the market, without any strange taste at all. Yes, refined salt. Li Er said excitedly, holding a handful. I'll send people to Longxi and Longdong to mine poisonous salt and form a special force to refine edible salt. With the salt-making method, it was like having the code to wealth. Even at a set price of only 20 coins, the number of people in the realm was enormous. And since salt was a consumable, it would be an enduring business. Yearly salt profits could even surpass the state treasury's revenue. Li'er, after obtaining the salt-making method, remained excited all the way until nightfall. When Empress Changsun saw him grinning foolishly, she looked at him with some distaste and said, "Why is your majesty smiling so strangely? Could it be that something great has happened?" "Great? It's an earth-shattering event." The empress asked curiously, "If it can make your majesty so happy, then it must truly be a great event. But what exactly is this great event? Could you share it with me?" Li'er's face flushed with excitement. "Empress, I came to you precisely to tell you this. I have solved the problem of the people's difficulty in obtaining salt." "What?" the empress exclaimed in surprise. "Has your majesty discovered a natural, clean salt mine?" Li'er shook his head. "Not a salt mine, a salt-making method. Today I obtained a method to extract clean salt from poisonous salt, and it has already been tested. 30 gene of poisonous salt can produce 26 gene of clean salt." The empress was completely stunned. After a while, she wept with joy. "Thank heaven, this is truly a great event. Heaven bless the Tang. I congratulate your majesty and congratulate the Tang. But, how did your majesty obtain this salt-making method?" Li'er looked somewhat displeased. The one who offered the salt-making method was none other than our imperial son-in-law. The empress was shocked. "The Princess Xiangqing's husband? That is indeed a great thing. But why does your majesty still seem unhappy?" "Ha!" Li'er slapped his thigh and said, "That brat is completely obsessed with money. After handing over the salt-making method, he still insisted on taking a 5 copper coin commission per gene of salt." The empress gaped in disbelief. "Only 5 coins per gene, and your majesty is upset? Your majesty, aren't you perhaps being too stingy?" Li'er's mouth twitched, and he shook 2 fingers. "Each gene of salt will only be 20 copper coins, and I even gave Fuji 3 coins from that." "Hiss!" The empress drew in a sharp breath. "Your majesty, did I hear correctly? A gene of salt will sell for only 20 coins. Li'er said, "If all the people are to eat clean, safe salt, a high price will make it unaffordable. 20 coins per gene is just right." "Heavens," the empress said in amazement. "The Shandong salt merchants have raised the price of green salt to 600 coins per gene, coarse salt to 400 coins, and fine salt to at least 800 coins per gene. 20 coins per gene is unheard of. Such cheap salt, will it kill people?" Li'er chuckled. "How could it? The method provided by the son-in-law produces salt from poisonous salt that is even purer than Shandong fine salt. If this salt fell into the merchants' hands, they could easily sell it for a tael of silver per gene." The empress thought for a moment, then smiled. "Your majesty's care for the people, reducing fine salt to 20 coins a gene, is a great achievement. This alone is enough for your majesty's name to go down in history." Li'er grinned from ear to ear. Then the empress frowned. "Your majesty, I have something to say, I'm not sure if I should." Li'er said, "You may speak freely." The empress said seriously, "I think your majesty is being too petty." Li'er frowned. "What do you mean by that?" She explained, "Think about it. Not long ago, Yuan Tiangang and Li Chunfeng calculated that the imperial son-in-law carries the fate of the nation. How did your majesty try to keep him? You personally held his horse and helped him mount. All of Chang'an saw and praised your majesty's love of talent." Li'er's body trembled, and he fell into thought. The empress said earnestly, "If the son-in-law had not given you the salt-making method, the people would still be unable to afford salt, and the merchants would still be selling it at sky-high prices. This method was given to you by the son-in-law. Even if out of 20 coins profit per gene he took 15 coins, it would not be excessive." Li'er opened his mouth but didn't speak, then slowly nodded in agreement. The empress continued, "If he hadn't given it to you, and instead mined and made salt himself, even if he sold it for 200 coins per gene and kept all the profit, that would still be a great fortune for him. You've picked up a bargain for nothing, and you still get the credit for solving the people's salt problem. Yet your eyes are fixed on 5 coins, such short-sightedness is unworthy of an emperor." Li'er trembled again, suddenly standing up. "Empress, you are right. I have been narrow-minded." Seeing him suddenly enlightened, the empress breathed a sigh of relief and went on, "If he becomes disheartened by your majesty's pettiness and decides to leave the Tang again, would you allow him to take the nation's fate with him?" Li'er's face changed, and he grew anxious, pacing in the hall of establishing virtue. Suddenly, he slapped his thigh and said regretfully, "I'm such a fool. I'll go to the Qing residence right now and apologize to him. Even if I give him the full 20 coins profit, I'd work for him for free." The empress quickly stopped him and pointed to the pitch-black night outside with a wry smile. Does your majesty not see the time? It's so late, the son-in-law must be resting. Besides, I heard that today is his concubine taking day. The concubine is the legitimate daughter of the Chui clan of Qinghe. Your majesty should remember, she's the niece of Chang Yaojin's second wife. Li Er slapped his forehead with a wry smile. Right, I was too impatient and confused. Ah, I truly am a muddle-headed. He said self-reproachfully, if I had known today was his wedding day, I wouldn't have summoned him to the palace. Well, tomorrow I will prepare generous gifts and go to the Qing residence, pretending to celebrate and also sounding him out. If necessary, I'll give him all the official salt profits. Empress, come with me tomorrow. The empress nodded. Meanwhile, in the bridal chamber of the Qing residence, Qing Xiu gently removed Cui Yuran's bright red wedding dress and laid her down on the bed. Her eyes were tightly shut, her cheeks flushed, her eyelashes trembling slightly. Her fragrant shoulders were round, her skin smooth as jade, the fine lines of her collarbones delicate and clear. She hurriedly opened her eyes, gazing at Qing Xiu with watery eyes, and said in a trembling voice, "Husband, please be gentle." Qing Xiu smiled slightly and said softly, "I will." A moment later, Cui Yuran pushed him away, her eyes shy and evasive. Please wait, husband." "What is it?" Qing Xiu asked. Then, to his shock, Cui Yuran slowly leaned down. Damn, she knows how to do that. Qing Xiu was a man who knew how to repay kindness. Cui Yuran, after being given a few pointers by Yunyang, had already become enlightened and had grasped the basic essentials. Suddenly, Qing Xiu inhaled sharply. Cui Yuran lifted her head, blinking her innocent large eyes in shy confusion. "Husband, why did you inhale?" Qing Xiu replied, "Your tone is too heavy." Cui Yuran said in a trembling voice, "Skill comes with practice, please give me more time." Qing Xiu gave a faint smile and nodded. "Already much better than that girl Ping Ting." Cui Yuran's pretty face flushed red, she bit her lip and smiled, then spent the night in deep conversation with Qing Xiu by candlelight. They talked happily all night. The next morning, after breakfast, a servant came to report that Li Er and his wife had already arrived at the residence. Qing Xiu did not understand why Li Er had come so suddenly, so he quickly went to the front hall to greet them. "Your subject greets your majesty, and greets the empress." Li Er hurriedly smiled and said, "Marquis Qing, there's no need for such formality, please rise." Qing Xiu asked doubtfully, "Why has your majesty come to visit so suddenly?" Li Er, somewhat self-reproachful, said, "I didn't know yesterday was your joyful day of taking a concubine, yet I summoned you to the palace for court affairs. You don't blame me, do you?" Qing Xiu shook his head with a smile. "How could I? Your majesty didn't know, and besides, it didn't delay my happy occasion." Li Er continued, "Yesterday I was a bit stingy. I know you were not entirely pleased. Last night I thought it over and felt that 5 coins profit per gene of salt was indeed a bit little. How about this, I'll give you 3 more coins. What do you think?" Qing Xiu looked stunned. "Ah? Your majesty, 5 coins is already quite a lot. 8 coins profit? I couldn't swallow that much." Li Er asked excitedly, "You really think so?" Seeing Qing Xiu nod, Li Er finally breathed a sigh of relief, glancing sideways at Empress Changsun as if to say, "See, the Duke of Zhenghua is not as petty as you imagined." The Empress also felt she had been too sensitive and found an excuse to go to the rear courtyard. Of course, the imperial couple stayed for a meal, and at noon they feasted heartily on the delicacies of the Qing residence before returning to the palace. Currently, the trade routes from Shandong to Guangzhou were open and unimpeded, and salt merchants coming and going had begun to increase. Early that morning, the gatekeeper, Old Lu, came to Qing Xiu with several visiting cards. "Master, there are a few people outside claiming to be salt merchants from Shandong, here to seek an audience. These are their visiting cards." Qing Xiu took the cards but did not look at them. Instead, he frowned and muttered to himself, "What are Shandong salt merchants visiting me for?" "Where are they?" he asked. Old Lu replied, "They're all waiting outside." Have them wait in the front hall. I'll be there shortly." A moment later, Qing Xiu entered the front hall, where several middle-aged men of varying appearances were seated. Upon entering, he went straight to the main seat, took a sip of tea, scanned the room, and asked, "I have never had dealings with you Shandong salt merchants. Why have you come to visit me?" The 5 middle-aged men were a bit surprised. They had not expected the famous Duke of Zhenghua to be such a young man. One short, round salt merchant squinted his eyes into slits and put on a fawning smile. "The great name of the Duke of Zhenghua has long been like thunder in our ears. We merchants have admired you for a long time. Today we came specially to pay our respects, but did not expect you to be so young, truly admirable." Another, tall and thin with a goatee, smiled and said, Early this spring, the Duke of Zhengua stood against all opposition to make timely proposals to His Majesty, greatly elevating the status of us merchants. Due to Turkic raids and rampant banditry, it was extremely difficult for us to travel to Guangzhou, so we were delayed in paying you a visit. We beg your forgiveness. Now that the Turks have been destroyed and His Majesty has sent troops to wipe out the mountain bandits, the trade routes are smooth again. We merchants are grateful for the Duke's efforts to improve our lowly status, and so we have come to visit, bringing humble gifts as a token of respect. As he spoke, the goateed man opened a wooden box he was holding and presented it. Inside was a finely crafted jade piece of obvious high value. The other four also opened their gift boxes, some contained jade, others calligraphy and paintings. Your Grace, I have heard you are a man of great talent and a lover of poetry and books. This is a work by Wang Xianji, son of the famous Jin dynasty calligrapher Wang Shiji. I specially brought it for you, hoping you will accept it. This is a pearl from the Eastern Sea. Qing Xiu merely glanced at their gifts, then calmly looked away and asked, "Tell me, what is your real reason for visiting me? I don't believe you came just out of admiration. I dislike beating around the bush, speak plainly." The chubby lead merchant stepped forward, cupping his hands with a smile. "We dare not deceive your Grace. We have come with a request." "Oh?" Qing Xiu sneered. "I don't even know who you are, yet you dare to ask me for something?" The fat man put on a bitter face. "Your Grace may not know, although we salt merchants appear to live in glory, in truth our days are quite poor. Though salt prices are high, little of it actually reaches us." Qing Xiu's mouth twitched, and he said coldly, "How so? Salt merchants not making money? Who would believe that? Salt is the most profitable business under heaven." The fat man explained, "Because acquiring green salt is extremely demanding, we must invest a great deal of manpower and resources. In mining, transport, distribution, the profits are heavily diluted. Out of hundreds of coins per gene of green salt, we only keep a few dozen at most." "And then?" Qing Xiu asked. The fat man went on, "We are grateful that the Duke, like a god of war, destroyed the Turks in just a few days, allowing trade between Shandong and Guangzhou to flow freely. We salt merchants then had the chance to sell salt here. Though we are far away in Shandong, we have heard the Duke was once a merchant and that your tea and wine businesses now cover all of Tang. Your connections far surpass ours. We came to Chang'an to seek a long-term partnership with you." "Oh?" Qing Xiu asked with interest. "And what kind of partnership?" The fat man, smiling ingratiatingly, said, "First, we want the exclusive rights to sell tea and wine in the Shandong region. We hope the Duke can supply us, and we will use top-grade green salt to trade in exchange." Qing Xiu asked with a half-smile, "Top-grade green salt? How good is it?" The fat salt merchant said nothing, but took a small paper packet from his chest. Opening it, he revealed pale green salt, with distinct granules. He presented it with both hands, smiling obsequiously. "This is top-grade green salt. Apart from natural fine salt, it's the best salt in the market. Its selling price is as high as 500 coins per gene. If the Duke is willing to trade tea and wine for green salt, we can offer it at 300 coins per gene. This is our greatest sincerity." Qing Xiu's mouth twitched. 300 coins? 300 coins for this? The non-toxic fine salt I produce costs only 20 coins, and this poisonous green salt, they want 300? Just for this lousy salt, you're asking me for 300 coins? Qing Xiu glared angrily and kicked the fat salt merchant, sending him tumbling. The fat merchant was startled, rolled over, and knelt on the ground, trembling. "Duke of Zhengua, please calm down, please calm down. The price can still be negotiated, we guarantee we can make you earn a huge profit." Qing Xiu said coldly, "Then tell me, how exactly will you make me earn a huge profit?" The fat man scrambled up and quickly said, "Right now, over 90% of the salt circulating in Guangzhou's market is supplied by our 5 families. If Duke Zhengua is willing to discuss this long-term deal, we can guarantee you exclusive rights to sell salt in Guangzhou. Think about it, this kind of green salt sells for 500 coins a gene. We'll give it to you for 300. You turn it around and make 200 coins per gene. This is just flipping goods, the money is as easy as picking it up off the ground." Qing Xiu sneered, "And what do you want in return?" The fat man flattered him, "Before coming here, we already learned that the profit from your tea and wine business is even more outrageous than salt. Wine that costs 4 taels of silver can be sold for a profit of 1 tael. We can offer you top-grade green salt for 200 coins a gene, if you could also lower the purchase price of tea and wine for us a bit, hee hee." The tall, thin, goateed man added, "Almost all commerce in Shandong is in the hands of the 8 great clans. If Duke Zhengua wants to open the tea and wine market there, it won't be easy. We salt merchants thrive in Shandong only because we rely on those powerful families. If you let us handle your tea and wine business in Shandong, we can create enormous wealth for you, and at the same time, you can control the profits from salt sales in Guangzhou." After he spoke, all of them looked at Qingxiu with eager eyes. Qingxiu was unmoved. He tossed the small paper packet of green salt onto the table and said with disdain, "This green salt is of terrible quality. Compared to my premium fine salt, it's like heaven and earth." "Premium fine salt?" The fat man and the goateed merchant exchanged a look of disbelief. The goateed man asked, "As far as I know, all the salt mines in Guanlong are poisonous salt mines. The salt dug up is black and inedible. The premium fine salt you speak of, could it be that a premium fine salt mine has been found in Guanlong?" When he finished, the other merchants all widened their eyes in disbelief. Qingxiu only smiled without answering. The more he acted like this, the more convinced they became that there really was such a mine in Guanlong, and they grew increasingly restless. Qingxiu, seeing through their thoughts, calmly said, "Even if I don't expand my tea and wine business into Shandong, it doesn't stop me from making plenty of money. The output of tea and wine is limited and can barely supply my current agents. Expanding into Shandong would mean taking stock from others, which wouldn't benefit me. And even if I don't do business with you, I can still get rich from premium fine salt in Guanlong. Frankly, a few hundred coins profit per jean of salt isn't worth my trouble when I can make several strings of cash per jean of wine." Though Qingxiu seemed to be showing them the door, in reality, he was just dangling bait. The salt merchant's main goal in coming to Chang'an was simple: to seize the salt market. Trading green salt for tea and wine was only secondary. Qingxiu glanced at them and sneered, "Don't think I can't see through you. You're here to seize the Guanlong salt market, and the tea for salt idea is just a cover. If I'm not mistaken, you're selling two kinds of salt in Guangzhou, the higher quality sea salt and the slightly inferior green salt. Yet you only talk about trading green salt for tea and wine, and don't even mention the refined sea salt extracted from seawater. Do you think I'm easy to fool?" The merchant's expressions faltered at once. The fat man forced a stiff smile. "Duke Xingua, what are you saying? You're a noble of the realm, how could we dare deceive you? That would be like bringing a lantern to the latrine, asking for death." Qingxiu snorted coldly. "Say what you like. While I'm still calm, get out." The goateed man hurriedly said, "Duke Xingua, please don't be angry. If we can't do tea and wine business, perhaps we could do some salt business. Could you let us see this premium fine salt?" Qingxiu thought for a moment, then nodded. "All right, wait here." He left, and when he returned, he was holding a clay jar filled with pure white fine salt. Placing it on the table, the merchants immediately crowded around. The fat man tasted a pinch, his face changing instantly. "It's fine salt, premium fine salt. Heavens, I've been in the salt trade for decades, and this is the first time I've seen salt so fine. Yes, it's even purer than the sea salt we extract from seawater. No strange taste at all, truly premium fine salt." Qingxiu lowered his voice. "To tell you the truth, I've discovered a salt mine full of this kind of premium fine salt. Conservatively, there are tens of millions of jean, and I've already secured exclusive mining rights." The merchant's eyes burned with greed. Qingxiu smiled and asked, "What price do you think this premium fine salt could fetch in the market?" 800 coins, at least 800. 900, premium sea salt sells for 800, so this should go for even more. I think at least one string of cash, 1,000 coins. They all spoke at once, guessing the price. Qingxiu said mysteriously, "In fact, I'm planning to sell it in Shandong. The price is already set, 600 coins a jean." "What? 600? This kind of premium fine salt, only 600 coins? Heavens, that's a crime against such quality. Duke Xingua, you can't do that. If this sells for 600, who will buy our sea salt at 800? One merchant even began to wail in protest. Qingxiu chuckled. "What do I care what you sell it for? I'll sell mine at 600 a jean." The fat man's breathing quickened, his face flushing. "How about selling this premium fine salt to us for 600 a jean?" The goateed man added urgently, "Yes, sell it to us at 600. Let us take it to Shandong for you, you won't have to leave Chang'an or worry about a thing, and the salt will still sell. What do you say?" Qingxiu frowned. "But I have far too much of this premium fine salt. Can you handle it all?" The fat man thumped his chest in excitement. "No problem, absolutely no problem. I, Zhao Qian, will take an initial order of 10 million jean. If you don't trust me, I can pay part of the deposit up front. I hope you'll consider me first." Looking at Zhao Qian's eager face, Qingxiu nearly couldn't hold back his laughter. The 600 coin price was just a probe, he hadn't expected them to take the bait so quickly. But then again, the fine salt he had shown them was simply too good. Qing Xiu did not think this fat salt merchant was asking too much, because a family that had been selling private salt for generations for over 100 years would have far more than 10 million in assets. At 600 coins per gene, 10 million gene would be worth 60 million strings of cash. That kind of wealth was already astonishing. Even after working hard for over half a year, Qing Xiu had only managed to accumulate about 30 million in assets himself. The imperial treasury at present might not even have 60 million. These salt merchants truly were rich enough to rival a nation. 10 million gene? Qing Xiu asked. That much, can you really take it all at once? Zhao Qian replied with some pride, my Zhao family has been selling salt in the Shandong area for generations, with 100 years of foundation. 60 million strings of cash is indeed a lot, but if we pool our resources, we can come up with it. Qing Xiu smiled faintly, nodded, and said, good. Boss Zhao is straightforward, so I won't waste words. As long as you deliver the deposit, in 3 months, the 10 million gene of premium fine salt will be shipped on time. One merchant muttered under his breath, could there be some trick in this? Qing Xiu's expression chilled. Zhao Qian's face also darkened. He turned and scolded, what nonsense are you spouting? Duke Xingua is a noble of the realm, famous in court, how could he be the petty sort you imagine? Qing Xiu curled his lips, covered his mouth, coughed, then said, I am a businessman. In business, credibility is everything. If Boss Zhao doesn't trust this batch of premium fine salt, you can inspect the goods freely when they're delivered. If you're still not reassured, we can add a clause to the contract. If the goods are not premium fine salt, the contract is void. When Zhao Qian heard this, he was instantly relieved, and with a flattering smile he bowed. No need, I trust your grace's character. I will go to the courier station right now to prepare the deposit and deliver it to your residence this afternoon. The goateed man quickly added, Your Grace, my assets can't match Boss Zhao's, so I can't take 10 million gene of fine salt, but 1 million gene is no problem. I just don't know if Your Grace has that much fine salt available. Of course, Qing Xiu said firmly. The goateed man's face lit up. Then I will also bring my deposit this afternoon to order 1 million gene of premium fine salt. I will order 1 million gene as well. I'll also take 1 million gene. The other 3 also rushed to speak, afraid that if they were too slow there would be none left. After Zhao Qian and the others left Qing's residence and returned to the courier station, they gathered together, each still showing an excited expression. Zhao Qian looked around with a serious face and said, Gentlemen, this is no small matter, we absolutely cannot let word get out. Duke Xingua's salt can be called the finest of the fine. With just a quick resale, we can make 300 to 400 coins profit per gene, and with such premium salt, sales will never be a problem. We can sell it to Goryeo, to Dvaravati, to Japan. One salt merchant frowned and said, Duke Xingua clearly only needs to move a bit of manpower to make 300 or 400 coins more per gene, yet he promised 30 million gene of salt all at once. It's hard not to be suspicious. Zhao Qian narrowed his eyes. Zhang Tao, are you worried Duke Xingua is cheating you? Zhang Tao said, the sum is huge. 1 million gene of fine salt costs 3 million strings of cash. That's the wealth my family has built over 3 generations. If anything goes wrong, it's total ruin. Better to be cautious. Zhao Qian curled his lip. Relax. Didn't Duke Xingua already say we can put it in the contract that if the goods don't match, the contract is void? The goateed man nodded. Exactly. We'll inspect when the goods arrive. If they don't match, we cancel. But if it really is premium fine salt, then we'll make a fortune. Zhao Qian smiled. I think the same as Brother Yang. Let's deliver the deposits to Duke Xingua's residence this afternoon and read the contracts carefully. Once they agreed, they brought bank drafts from the Tang Bank to Qing's residence that afternoon. After several months of growth, the Tang Bank had already expanded into Shandong, with only a few small towns left to cover. Having experienced the convenience of the bank, these merchants also trusted it greatly. After checking the contracts and confirming no issues, they each signed and sealed them. Once the 5 merchants were sent off, Qing Xiu hurried to the palace. When Li Er heard that 30 million gene of fine salt had been sold in one go, he stared in disbelief. I always thought salt merchants were rich enough to rival a nation, but I didn't expect it to be true. Just 5 merchants ordered 30 million gene of fine salt, that's 900 million strings of cash. Qing Xiu's expression grew strange as he said to Li Er, Your Majesty, how shall we split the profits from this 30 million gene of fine salt? Li Er was stunned. Didn't we agree before? You get 50 coins per gene, Changsun Wuji gets 30 coins per gene, and the rest is mine. Qing Xiu, you're not saying that's too little, are you? Li Er looked a bit troubled. If you think it's too little, I can give you more, but don't push it too far. Qingxiu shook his head and smiled. We agreed before, 600 coins per gene, meaning your majesty gets 220 coins per gene, correct? Li Er nodded, puzzled. Correct. Qingxiu smiled. Good, then it's simple. For 30 million gene of fine salt, I just need to pay your majesty 660 million strings of cash, right? Yes, wait, no, you brat, what are you getting at? Li Er was completely confused. Qingxiu shook his head repeatedly. Nothing, nothing. I'll deliver 660 million strings of cash to your majesty on time, not a single coin less. You just wait to collect. I'll take my leave. Watching Qingxiu's back as he left, Li Er was baffled. In the end, he still couldn't figure it out, and shook his head with a bitter smile. That boy, why is he acting so strange today? Afterward, Li Er quickly organized a team to mine salt and created a special department to extract edible salt under his personal supervision. In just 1 month, they produced around 20 million gene of fine salt, far purer than sea salt. It took only a month and a half to gather the full 30 million gene. Once the salt was ready, Li Er and Changsun Wuji hurried to Qing's residence to ask about delivery. Seeing their excited faces, Qingxiu chuckled. What's the rush? Your money isn't going anywhere. We still have a month and a half until delivery. Changsun Wuji urged, let's deliver early, to avoid trouble later. Qingxiu looked at him strangely. Lord Yu, you're usually a smart man, how are you being so muddle-headed at a time like this? Changsun Wuji was a bit stunned and showed displeasure. Seeing this, Qingxiu said, we now have the full 30 million gene of fine salt, ready to deliver to the salt merchants at any time, but what about after delivery? Li Er and Changsun Wuji exchanged a glance, as if they had both realized something. Qingxiu continued, after delivery, we'll have no extra fine salt in our hands. All the salt will be in the merchant's hands, how will we push the price down then? We should wait until we've stockpiled a large amount ourselves before making delivery. Both men thought about it and realized they had been too impatient. So be it, we'll wait a while longer. After that, Li Er left with Changsun Wuji. Night fell. Qingxiu lay with eyes closed, lecturing Ashinayu, who nodded repeatedly. After a long time, Qingxiu finished. Ashinayu, after tidying her mouth, nestled in Qingxiu's arms and whispered, Husband, when will you arrange for me to see father? Since Jieli had been captured and made lead dancer in Chang'an, father and daughter had never met. Qingxiu thought for a moment and said, tomorrow. I'll take you to see your father. Now, as a duke of the realm, he needed no one's permission to visit someone in the official music house. So the next day, after Ashinayu once again busied herself with oral service and they had breakfast, Qingxiu took her to the music house. Jieli's life was now quite comfortable. In just over a month, the imperial bearing of the former Turkic Khan had faded, and due to the abundant food, his figure had grown quite plump. Aside from not being allowed to leave Chang'an and always being watched when going out, his days were easy. Seeing her father in such a state, Ashinayu breathed a sigh of relief, but her eyes reddened and she rushed forward, choking, Father, you've suffered these days. Seeing his long-lost kin, even the nearly 50-year-old Jieli couldn't help but shed tears. Ashinayu, my daughter, I never thought I'd see you again. Are you doing well? Jieli looked her over and saw her belly slightly swollen. His heart sank and he suddenly looked angrily at Qingxiu. You treated my daughter like this? Is the child in her belly yours? Qingxiu smiled. Khan Jieli, no need to bare your fangs. Ashinayu is now my concubine. I'm Duke Shingui of Tang. Your daughter, a Turkic princess, being with me is no loss of honor. Ashinayu quickly tried to calm him. Father, things have come to this. The Turks have fallen. We're living well now. The Tang emperor didn't order your death, that's already great fortune. Jieli raised his fist and pounded his thigh, then glared fiercely at Qingxiu. If you ever mistreat my daughter, I won't forgive you, even as a ghost. Ashinayu quickly explained, Father, husband treats me well. He's never bullied me. His other wives haven't ganged up on me for being from another tribe. On the contrary, they're all kind. I live well with husband. Jieli was surprised. The Tang women didn't insult you? No, Ashinayu smiled slightly. They certainly wouldn't insult me. Even the servants treat me with respect. You don't need to worry for me. Jieli looked to the sky and sighed, seeming relieved. He nodded with satisfaction. Good, good. From now on, you are a Tang wife. Living in Tang, you must follow Tang's rules. He then looked at Qingxiu, his expression easing, before turning to leave. Father, where are you going? Jieli waved his hand. Go back. I'm fine. Don't worry about me. Ashinayu watched his back, choking again. A fallen emperor, she couldn't imagine how her father must have felt. Since Su Xiaochun was about to give birth, Qing Xiu spent most of the next month at home with his wives and concubines. Jiang Yener, after over 3 months of recovery, was in good health, thanks to the herbal tonics provided by Li Yuqing and Lu Yunyan. Both from Miao villages, the two not only had great martial skill but were also highly skilled in medicine. One day at the table, Su Xiaochun set down her chopsticks, looked at Qing Xiu and Jiang Yener, and said, "Husband, Sister Yener's health is fully restored. When do you plan to marry her properly?" Qing Xiu was startled. He hadn't expected Su Xiaochun to bring this up suddenly. He glanced at Jiang Yener, whose face was already red as she lowered her head. In beauty among his women, Jiang Yener ranked second, with no one in first place. She was about 1.7 meters tall, weighing around 90 jin, with curves as pronounced as Ashina Yu's, if not more so, full and graceful. Slender smoky brows, clear pure eyes, phoenix-shaped eyes with a unique charm, and skin delicate as snow. "Yes, husband," Li Yuqing said with an ant-like smile. "Sister Yener even asked me to remind you a few days ago. You can't keep her waiting, she's practically pining away." Jiang Yener flushed deeper, flustered, and hurried to protest, "I didn't, you're making that up. I didn't, I really didn't." She looked at everyone, cheeks crimson, hands waving. Her flustered denial was quite adorable. Ever since Jiang Yener had chosen to shut herself away in the brothel, Qing Xiu had let go of his earlier misgivings. Even though she was the product of close-kin marriage, her self-seclusion had left her infertile. For this love-struck little girl, Qing Xiu still felt some pity. He cleared his throat. "Marriage isn't for me alone to decide. After lunch, I'll go to Sanha village to ask her brother. If Jiang Huai has no objection, we'll pick an auspicious day." Everyone agreed, and Jiang Yener's heart began to race. That afternoon, Qing Xiu went to Sanha village, spoke with Jiang Huai, who happily agreed, and even came back to Chang'an with him to talk to Jiang Yener before returning. Jiang Huai set the date, 3 days later. 3 days passed quickly. Early this morning, 2 festive red lanterns hung at Qing's gate, the mansion decorated with lights and banners. Townsfolk began talking again. Of course, Qing Xiu marrying was nothing new, the people were long used to it. Qing Xiu's wedding seemed to have become a unique and beautiful sight of the Qing residence. Not only had the townsfolk grown used to it, but even the guests invited to the banquets were long accustomed. Attending such a wedding was not only a chance to strengthen ties with the Duxingua, but also an opportunity to taste the rare delicacies of the Qing residence. The small gift of money for the occasion was hardly worth mentioning. That night, the wedding feast at the Qing residence was, of course, lively to the extreme. The guests came and went, all well-known figures of Chang'an. As for our protagonist Qing Xiu, he had long been used to such scenes. After so many weddings, he was thoroughly familiar with the entire ceremony. "Duxingua, congratulations, congratulations. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Congratulations on yet another wedding." From those words alone, he could tell it was an old guest come to enjoy the feast again. Qing Xiu handled them with practiced ease, cupping his hands with a smile. "Everyone, eat and drink your fill. Tonight we don't go home until we're drunk." The guests all agreed cheerfully. When the wedding ceremony ended, Jiang Yener was first escorted to her bridal room, while Qing Xiu stayed behind to drink and chat with the guests. After a long while, the guests dispersed. Slightly tipsy, Qing Xiu returned to the bridal room. Jiang Yener was already seated on the bed, waiting. Lifting her red bridal veil, her breathtakingly beautiful face came into view. "Husband, it's late at night," she said shyly. Even on this joyful day, being stared at like that made her blush. The bright red wedding dress only enhanced her beauty, making Qing Xiu's heart sway. He stared for a moment, then said with deep affection, "Yener, you are so beautiful." As he spoke, he unceremoniously embraced her, his hands starting to wander. Hearing his words, Jiang Yener grew even shyer, though her face also carried a strong look of anticipation. "Husband, you're too bad." Qing Xiu laughed heartily. This bashful and adorable Yener was exactly to his liking. He suddenly blew out the candle, and the room dimmed. With a soft cry of surprise, Jiang Yener became fully a part of the Qing residence. A month later, Li Er impatiently summoned Qing Xiu, and upon seeing him, said excitedly, "The fine salt is ready. You can go deliver it to those Shandong salt merchants." Qing Xiu was surprised. "It's all ready? So fast? Faster than preparing the salt merchants 30 million jin? Father-in-law, don't let the small slip for the big. Our real goal is to let the common people have cheap fine salt. If our reserve is less than what the merchants have, the risk will be too great." Changsun Wuji and Li Er exchanged a glance and smiled. "Prince Consort, no need to worry. In this past month our reserves are more than enough. The fine salt in the merchants' hands is nothing." Their words were full of confidence. It was no wonder. To stockpile for the later phase, Lier had ordered his men to work day and night. Even selling at just 30 a gene, purifying coarse salt still earned plenty of profit, and selling cheap fine salt to the people was part of strengthening the country and benefiting the people. With both that and enough profit to fill the treasury, everyone was satisfied. Just go handle the delivery. Leave the fine salt reserves to me, no need to worry, Lier said confidently. He smiled at Qingxiu. Don't tell me you don't trust me? Qingxiu shook his head and relaxed. I naturally trust my father-in-law. In that case, I'll summon the merchants for the delivery. Lier nodded eagerly. In just 1 month, production had doubled. With 40 million gene of fine salt in hand, he had nothing to fear. Back at the Qing residence, Qingxiu summoned the merchants. Before they even saw him, the goateed merchant whispered to the others, have you found out where Duxinggua's fine salt comes from? What kind of mine could produce so much high-quality salt? The fat merchant shook his head regretfully. I sent people to investigate, but there's not a single clue about that salt mine. No trace at all. The others agreed. Such high-quality fine salt, they naturally wanted more than 30 million gene. If they could control that mine, the profits would be mouth-watering. The goateed man sighed. As he had expected, the Duke had means, and the mine was well protected. It seemed they could only keep working with him. In truth, they didn't know that the mine Qingxiu had mentioned didn't exist at all, and with Lier backing him, the salt extraction was a secretive process. They'd never be able to find out. Soon, Qingxiu received them. I'm sure you know why I summoned you, he said calmly. Even without hearing their conversation at the gate, he could guess. Seeing their faint disappointment, Qingxiu sneered inwardly. The merchant's eyes lit up. This was about huge profits, of course they cared. 30 million gene of fine salt meant big gains, and breaking into the Shandong salt market was even more crucial, but only if they really made a fortune from it. Qingxiu smiled. The 30 million gene of fine salt is ready. It's time for you to deliver. You haven't changed your minds, have you? The goateed man quickly said, rest assured, Duke. Since the fine salt is ready, we'll keep our word. The final payment for 5 million gene will be delivered immediately. The fat merchant, more excited still, stepped forward. Duxingua, you haven't forgotten my 10 million gene, have you? Seeing his eager look, Qingxiu smiled kindly. Of course not. Please rest assured, Boss Xiao, since we agreed before, I won't break my word. For this man who had rashly ordered 10 million gene, Qingxiu felt a touch of sympathy. When he found out he would lose money on it, would he regret his impulsiveness? But there was no time to think. The others quickly claimed the remaining 15 million gene, afraid to miss out. Money in one hand, goods in the other, 30 million gene for 18 million guan. If not for the Tang Bank's notes, the cash alone could have filled his courtyard. Once the deal was done, the merchants eagerly took their leave, and Qingxiu happily saw them off. From their view, they had surely made a huge profit. Of course, Qingxiu and Lier thought the same. Holding the banknotes worth 18 million guan in his hand, Qingxiu was, of course, too excited to hide it. With all his profitable businesses, the Iwei residence that made money by the bucketful every day, the thriving tea houses and wine shops, in the past 6 months he had only earned around 3 million guan. Now, in a single deal, he had made 6 times that. No, this wasn't just like picking money up off the ground, it was faster than robbery. Though it wasn't all his, between his own share of the profits and the price difference, more than half would go to him, and he already had uses in mind for that difference. Standing at the gate of the Qing residence, watching the 5 gods of wealth leave with their salt convoys, Qingxiu couldn't help smiling. That affectionate smile startled old Lu, the gatekeeper. He couldn't help asking, Master, why are you smiling? It's nothing. Qingxiu reined in his smile and shook his head slightly, then said meaningfully, Old Lu, do you believe me when I say, the way they carted it out is the way they'll have to cart it back? Old Lu didn't understand, but from that familiar smile, he knew someone was in for trouble again. Master, whatever you say is right. No sooner had Qingxiu seen off the Shandong salt merchants than Lier eagerly summoned him. As soon as they met, Lier couldn't help asking, well? Was the deal smooth? They didn't back out, did they? 30 million gene of fine salt, even at 300 yuan a gene, the state treasury couldn't afford that. Surely they didn't actually regret it. Changsun Wuji looked equally tense, rubbing his hands nervously. Son-in-law, stop keeping us in suspense, we old folks don't have strong hearts. Knowing how to handle elders, Qingxiu didn't tease them. He spread out the banknotes in his hand with a confident smile. I have lived up to expectations, all 30 million gene of fine salt have been sold. At his words, both men relaxed completely. Then they looked at the thick stack of banknotes in Qingxiu's hand, eyes widening. They were visibly thrilled. This is the profit from the 30 million jin of fine salt? Changsun Wuji took them with both hands, staring at them without blinking, his throat dry. Before he could count them, Li Er snatched them away with an air of disdain. Fuji, calm down. It's just a mere 9 million guan, no need to get so worked up. Changsun Wuji curled his lip. Yeah right, your legs are shaking while you say that. Qingxiu wasn't surprised. That much in banknotes was more than the national treasury, of course they were excited. Your Majesty, you said before we were a team, Qingxiu said, coughing lightly. He'd almost said gang. As agreed earlier, Qingxiu would get 1.5 million guan of the 9 million. Li Er came to his senses, laughing and patting Qingxiu's shoulder. Duke Xingua, you think too much, how could I forget? Here, this is yours. Your Majesty, and mine too, Changsun Wuji quickly added. Li Er frowned, as if suddenly remembering. Fuji, what are you doing here? Changsun Wuji squinted at him. Your Majesty, I've been here the whole time, don't forget my share. Qingxiu covered his face. The harmony boat of monarch and minister could capsize at any time. Ahem, of course I wouldn't forget, Li Er said awkwardly, handing him 90,000 guan, though looking pained. Changsun Wuji quickly tucked the notes into his sleeve and stepped aside. Skipping over the awkwardness, Li Er put away the rest and said seriously, since these Shandong merchants have taken the bait, now we roll out the cheap salt. Humph, I hope this teaches them a lesson. It would be more than a lesson, some would likely go bankrupt. Qingxiu knew it well. He smiled meaningfully. Then I'll leave it to my father-in-law. Changsun Wuji smiled slightly. This is my duty. 40 million jin of fine salt is already prepared. We must hurry, the people have eaten coarse salt long enough. Time for them to have fine salt. Qingxiu sighed. Most importantly, they couldn't give the merchants time to haul the salt back to Shandong, or it would be much harder to bring it back. Suddenly remembering something, Qingxiu said quickly, oh, right, Your Majesty, please finalize the laws. That's our last step. Of course. Li Er waved his hand and chuckled. No time to lose. Duke Xingua has finished the prelude. Fuji, the burden's on you now. The notes in his sleeve made Changsun Wuji brimming with confidence. He bowed and said, I've already given the order, starting today, it'll be sold directly at 21 a jin, no price increases. Hearing this, Qingxiu and Li Er exchanged a glance, one little fox and two old foxes, and all three laughed. At the same time, in a modest inn in Chang'an, the 5 Shandong salt merchants who had earlier left Qingxiu's residence separately were meeting again. They hadn't taken the salt back to Shandong or sent it to their shops for resale, instead, they had gathered here in secret. Their salt convoys were parked behind the inn. Well, Yang Gong, why call us together again? Don't tell me you have objections to the fine salt, the plump Xiaoqian asked with a puzzled look, though whether real or feigned was unclear. Yang Gong stroked his goatee with a kindly smile. Boss Xiao misunderstands. Since we've already bought the fine salt from the Duke, of course there's no problem. Oh? Then let's be frank. Why exactly did you call us? Zhang Tao said casually, though everyone knew he was not simple. He had been the first to suspect Qingxiu earlier. Heh, drop the act, Yang Gong said bluntly. It's just us here, let's speak openly. Before we resell this fine salt, we should first agree on the price. The other 4 weren't surprised. Of course, Zhao Qian said, patting his belly with a Buddha-like smile. We all know our real purpose in visiting the Duke wasn't tea and wine, but the salt market. Now that we've got what we wanted, and with this bonus of high-quality fine salt, we should discuss pricing, so no one breaks the rules later. As he spoke, he turned his gaze toward the others at the surrounding tables, his meaning was clear without words. There might have been only 5 of them here, but they were the biggest salt merchants in the entire Shandong salt market, controlling the largest share. The rules he referred to were their unspoken agreement to secretly set salt prices together and jointly control the market, the practice they had followed for years. What price do you think we should set? Zhang Tao looked at Yang Gong and tested the waters. How about 800 won a jin? For such fine salt, we can't price it too low. As soon as he finished, one of the merchants snorted dismissively, 800 won? Are you trying to fob it off like scrap? At least 900 won a jin. Clearly, a profit of only 200 won per jin did not satisfy him, so he raised it by another 100. Yang Gong smiled, took a cloth bag from his sleeve, and spread it on the table. Inside was the fine salt they had bought from the Qing residence. He pinched a bit and put it in his mouth. As he chewed, his goat-like beard moved up and down. The others watched without speaking. After a moment, Yang Gong glanced at them and said, 1200 won. They were all startled, Zhao Qian included. 1200, the man who spoke first questioned. That's an unusual price. Even fine salt has never been that high. Isn't it too much? The others clearly shared the doubt. Yang Gong chuckled with a self-satisfied smile. Too high? No, not at all. They looked at each other, unsure of his meaning. Suddenly Zhao Qian spoke up in support. Good. 1,200 it is. This. Meeting the other's eyes, Zhao Qian explained leisurely, this is salt bought from the Duke of Zhenghua. Our purchase price was high, so naturally the selling price must be high. We salt merchants have no choice, don't you agree? At that, the others' expressions changed, they instantly understood. Their doubts vanished, replaced with knowing smiles. If the price was too high, what did it have to do with them? Let people complain to the Duke himself if they dared. Yang Gong added proudly, since the Duke of Zhenghua has given us his name as a shield, we'll gladly accept it. If there's resentment, it's not our problem. Besides, we decide the market price. That's right. If they can't afford it, then don't eat salt. Zhang Tao laughed heartily, full of agreement. 1,200 won a jean is hardly expensive. Don't say otherwise. It's been this price for years. If they can't afford it, they should look at themselves. Has their income increased? Have they worked harder? Agreed. 1,200 it is. I agree as well. They all voiced their approval. To them, doubling the price was nothing new, only this time the doubling was a bit higher than usual. In that case, it's settled, Yang Gong said with a mocking smile. Since the Duke handed us the handle, we'll gladly take it. With this push into the Guangzhou salt market, there's plenty of profit ahead. And then we'll make him pay dearly for those tea and wine businesses of his. Ha ha ha, and here I thought the Duke was so clever, skilled in both war and trade. But today it seems he's just a youngster making us a wedding dress. We'll own the salt market. Yes, yes, and we won't spare his tea and wine trade either, Duke or not. Before long, they were discussing how to make a huge profit and later take a big bite out of Qingxiu, even dividing up the shares in advance. The room filled with a cheerful mood. At dawn, the rising sun shone on a sudden change in Chang'an. It began with the government salt shops across the city. Somehow, a rumor spread that the official salt shops had lowered their prices. Those who heard it got up early to line up at the shop doors, motivated by the prices written on the signs. Is this true? 21 a jean, what kind of salt is that cheap? Some people doubted it, clearly unsure. In all of Chang'an, in any dynasty, anywhere, there had never been official salt sold for as little as 21 a jean. It's written right there. They wouldn't trick us, would they? Someone pointed at the price sign on the shop. Even though it wasn't open yet, the line stayed put. While the people waited with suspicion and hope, the shop finally opened. The shop assistant was startled by the crowd, he had never seen so many people at the door. Is your salt really 21 a jean? Someone shouted. While calling for the shopkeeper, the assistant eyed the crowd warily. He didn't know where they had heard about the price drop, but he replied, the salt that came in yesterday really is 21 a jean. The crowd erupted. Even for coarse salt lumps, 21 was extremely cheap. What's more, the shop wasn't selling the roughest kind. The shopkeeper soon came out, startled at first, then understanding immediately. After decades selling salt, he knew exactly what was going on. Shopkeeper, give me 10 jean. I want 20 jean. And me, 20 jean too. Before he could speak, the crowd surged forward. The shopkeeper quickly told his assistants to hold them back and shouted, don't push, there's plenty, it just arrived last night. Before seeing the salt, the people had held back somewhat. But when they saw the first buyer leave carrying a fine, white bag of salt, the crowd went wild. They had never seen such fine salt. Some even tasted a pinch on the spot, and were moved to tears. This quality of fine salt, they had never even seen it before, let alone eaten it. Don't grab. There's plenty, tens of thousands of jean in the storeroom. It'll be this price from now on, don't grab, the shopkeeper kept shouting, but no one listened. Poor shopkeeper, after only a few shouts, he was swallowed up by the sea of people and vanished from sight. Once they knew they could get such high-quality salt for 21, the crowd went completely mad, pushing into the shop. As for why the same fine salt eaten by nobles could now be so cheap, that was none of their concern. The only thought in their minds was to buy as much as possible while they could. On the street, many people were hurrying along carrying heavy cloth bags. Others, surprised and puzzled, asked, what are you carrying? Why so rushed? It's salt, fine salt at 21 a jean. 21? What kind of salt is that cheap? Only 21? You're not lying, are you? Someone questioned. Believe it or not. The man opened the cloth bag in his arms, revealing fine, white, delicate salt. As people gasped in surprise, he looked smug, then quickly closed the bag with a wary glance. If you want some, go buy it yourself. People around immediately asked, "Where did you buy this salt?" "At the salt shop on the street corner." "I heard other salt shops are selling it too." "Really? I want some too." "Hurry, hurry, if you're late there won't be any left." In an instant, the whole street began surging with people. And it wasn't just that street, the same happened everywhere. Some shops even closed directly, their owners rushing to buy salt. All over Chang'an, crowds were pouring toward every salt shop, official and private alike, until they were packed to the doors. Even though the authorities had somewhat anticipated this, they were still shocked by the overwhelming excitement of the people. Yongzhou Prefecture urgently sent officers to maintain order, and the salt shops rushed to move in the fine salt that had arrived in the warehouse only hours earlier. 40 million jin of fine salt was being consumed at a frightening, frenzied pace, and this was just Chang'an. Not to mention that great clans and nobles were buying salt in units of tens of thousands of jin. Even they usually couldn't bear to eat such salt. Now, at 21 a jin, the whole city had gone mad. It was no joke. What's happening outside? In a certain inn, Yang Gong came out of his room into the main hall. It wasn't just him, the other salt merchants had also been alarmed by the noise outside and came to see. But the hall was empty, even the innkeeper and his assistants had gone out to grab salt. "Boss Yang, what on earth is going on out there?" The usual kind smile was gone from Zhao Qian's face, replaced by a sense of dread that had been growing since last night. Looking out at the street, now almost deserted except for the occasional passerby hurrying by with a tense expression, the merchants frowned deeply. Even if the Turks had invaded the city, it couldn't be worse than this was Chang'an. Exchanging glances, they hurried outside, following the flow of the commoners. Before long, they found where the crowd was gathering. "What's going on here? Why are you all so worked up?" Zhang Tao had someone stop a man carrying a large cloth bag and grinning broadly. The man eyed them warily, but couldn't hide the smile at his lips. "If you want salt, buy it yourselves. 21 a jin, it's very cheap. Hurry and buy, or there'll be none left." Without caring about the change in their expressions, he left in a hurry. After stopping several people and asking, the salt merchants finally understood what was happening, and their faces changed drastically. What is this? Why is so much fine salt suddenly being sold at such a low price? Why so cheap? Zhao Qian stared blankly, muttering in disbelief. Yang Gong tore at his own goat beard in pain, gritting his teeth. The thought that the same salt they had bought at a high price yesterday was now being sold cheaply nearly stopped his heart. "We've been swindled. My 5 million jin of salt." No sooner had he spoken than he fainted. Fortunately, his men caught him, or he might have fallen for good. The others were pale as well, watching the joyful crowd with a creeping chill inside, decades of accumulation ruined in a single day. Zhao Qian, realizing how much he was about to lose, felt the world spinning. His plump body collapsed, knocking down two of his men. Before fainting, he shouted, "I bought 10 million jin. 2 million guan." Ah! Their misfortune didn't affect the frenzy at the salt shops in the slightest. Even the officers had no time to notice, they were either maintaining order or had joined the crowd themselves. Bai Weiju, second floor. In a private room by the window, the table was covered with fine dishes. A young man leaned against the window frame, calm and casual, in sharp contrast to the excitement in the street below. Beside him, the proprietress of Bai Weiju, Li Yuchan, personally poured his wine, smiling. She seemed unsurprised that the man beside her had caused such a stir in Chang'an. In fact, her expression carried pride and admiration. "They've probably already noticed something's wrong in the streets," Qing Xiu said with a smile, taking a sip of Xinghua village wine. He looked up to find Li Yuchan gazing at him affectionately, and he suddenly pulled her into his arms. Caught off guard, she feigned a little resistance before resting against him with a smile. "Husband, this must all have been in your plans. The lure of cheap fine salt is far stronger for the people than food and wine. Those salt merchants will be miserable this time." "I honestly didn't expect it to cause such a huge scene," Qing Xiu admitted, setting down his teacup. His left hand wandered restlessly, making Li Yuchan shy but helpless, her body twisting like a water snake and her face growing redder. Then he added with gloating in his voice, "Those Shandong salt merchants probably haven't even left Chang'an yet. When they wake up this morning, they'll cough up 3 liters of blood." He truly hadn't thought the whole city would erupt like this, but it didn't matter, the merchants would find out soon enough. "Husband, I wonder if 40 million jin of fine salt will be enough. At this rate, it won't last long," Li Yuchan calculated quickly. Qing Xiu smiled confidently. "Don't be fooled by the rush now, it's just the peak of the buying frenzy. Give it some time and it will calm down. Honestly, our salt is just too good, and the price too low." Suddenly, he paused and said meaningfully, "Besides the 40 million jin His Majesty prepared, aren't there still 30 million Jin more? Li Yuchan froze for a moment, then understood, looking at him with admiration. Husband, you're too bad. Let's see when they come knocking. Qing Xiu nodded with a smile. They will, it won't take long. In the dim room, the candles had long gone out. The sound of several people breathing could be clearly heard, yet no one lit a flame. From the hall downstairs came some noise, likely the shopkeeper and workers returning from the salt shop, counting the stock in the salt storeroom. Mixed in were their cheerful, lively conversations. The joys and sorrows of people are never the same, and at this moment, that saying fit perfectly for the 5 people present. 5 salt merchants from Shandong who had arrived full of enthusiasm and ambition. Ahem, come on, let's talk. What should we do next? At last, after a long silence, someone broke the stillness. But from his tone it was clear he was deeply desperate and pessimistic. They had come in high spirits, but they couldn't leave now. More precisely, the fortunes they had brought with them couldn't leave. To break into the Guangzhou salt market, to make this deal with Duke of the Nation Qing Xiu, they had paid heavily. In just 3 months, they had even mortgaged part of their ancestral property. Some lost more, some less, but the worst off was the fat man sitting by the window. His losses were the greatest, and his ability to bear risk the weakest. It was entirely possible that in the future there would no longer be a Shandong salt merchant named Zhao Qian. Zhang Tao seemed to have recovered somewhat from the morning's chaos and blow. His voice was hoarse, his tone full of anger. No, we must have an explanation. I bought 5 million Jin of salt, 3 million guan. I can't just let that vanish into thin air. You only bought 5 million Jin, huh? I still have 10 million Jin in the wagons in my backyard. For those 6 million guan, I mortgaged my whole family estate. Zhao Qian's voice followed. When the others looked over, the once shining, greasy-faced fat man was pale and colorless. It was obvious the blow from this Chang'an salt market upheaval had hit him harder than the rest. Grinding his teeth in fury, Zhao Qian slammed a fist onto the table under their gaze. He was burning with rage and disbelief. How could this be? The salt market wasn't supposed to work like this. Why was such fine salt selling for only 21 a Jin? Where had they gotten so much fine salt? Could there really be people in this world who didn't want money? At this moment, Zhao Qian's mind was full of unanswered questions. Of course, the same questions were in the minds of the others, maybe even more so. That included Yang Gong, who had just woken from fainting and still looked weak. Yang Gong had always been confident in his ability to control the market and its changes, but this time, they had completely miscalculated. One of the men took a deep breath and said uncertainly, How about we report this to the authorities? We've lost so much money, there should be some explanation for us. What's the point of reporting it? That Qing Xiu is a duke of the nation, granted title by the Tang Emperor. Do you think the Yongzhou prefecture would dare handle our case? Besides, from beginning to end it was voluntary, no one forced us. We'd be better off thinking about how to stop those salt shops from selling so cheaply. Another merchant spoke, his tone heavy with helplessness and resentment. I don't believe they really have that much salt. Once they run out, we can sell ours at high prices again. For now, that seemed like the only possible plan, but reality hadn't yet reached that stage. They still held on to certain hopes, even illusions, which made the atmosphere in the room even heavier. Ahem, stop hoping. Those salt shops have more salt than we ever imagined. A lot more. After a bout of coughing, Yang Gong's face looked older, full of bitterness and helplessness, with a faint trace of hatred in his eyes. He looked around the table and asked firmly, Haven't you noticed? How much salt has flowed out of those shops today alone? Has the Yongzhou prefecture sent anyone to stop them from disrupting the market? The other 4 fell silent at those questions. Today the Yongzhou prefecture had been unusually calm. Even when the salt shops started selling such fine salt at rock-bottom prices, they had shown only some initial confusion, but no sign of stopping it. And since morning, with the salt shops opening one after another, countless commoners had been hurrying home carrying full bags of salt. At 21 a Jin, it was so cheap that even beggars could afford half a Jin or more. By now, at least 10 million Jin of fine salt must have gone into households across Chang'an, right? Thinking it over, everyone present couldn't help but take a sharp breath. Hiss. At least 10 million Jin gone and still no sign of supply running out. And earlier they had just delivered 3 million Jin to them. Where did those shops get so much salt? Why set the price so low? Were they trying to leave us with no way to live? Just how much salt did they have in their hands? This had been the question they'd been unable to figure out all day. Yang Gong let out a deep sigh, his voice filled with a meaning hard to fully express. This is a trap. A trap set especially for us. The mastermind is that young, wet behind the ears Duke of the nation we look down on, and even His Majesty is involved. At those words, the old salt merchant with the goat beard seemed even older. This was a deal we entered willingly. The profit or loss is on us, our own greed to blame. He had to admit it, and he looked utterly dejected now. But we can't just let them take our money for nothing. If we refuse, they won't sell a single grain of salt to Shandong. Zhang Tao stood up angrily, his tone hard and ruthless. Unless he's willing to buy back the salt at the original price, and let us make our share too. Zhao Qian too seemed to have dropped any pretense, speaking viciously. Right. No compromise. If salt prices are this low, how are we supposed to make money? It shouldn't be this low. That's all money. Just thinking about such good salt being sold for 20 when a gene made their hearts bleed. Humph, you were the ones who begged to do business with the Duke of the Nation in the first place. Now you want to back out? Life isn't that easy. Don't even think about it. Yang Gong was far more realistic than they were. Then what do we do? Zhang Tao pointed toward the backyard and said coldly. Sell at 20 when a gene? I'd rather dump it in the water. Selling at a cheap price? Not a chance. Someone's voice softened then, almost in tears. What if we go to the Duke of the Nation ourselves and ask him to spare us a way out? 3 million guan, that's what I've saved in half a lifetime of selling salt. If it's gone, what will I do? Humph, if you want to go, then go. I'm not going, another man said stiffly. Just thinking about how confidently he had bought the salt back then, even mocking Qing Xiu's short-sightedness and timidity, now felt unbearably ironic. But even such a hard tone couldn't change the fact that they would have to compromise. They couldn't sell their salt now, unless they agreed to sell it at 21 per gene. Obviously, that was impossible. The atmosphere gradually sank again, with only Yang Gong's cough echoing in the room. Whether it was compromise or impulsive thoughts, all fell silent. These salt merchants were still weighing gains and losses. If no decision came today, their small interest group would fall apart. Either they would foolishly try to stop the changes in the salt market now, or they would go and compromise, and maybe the other side was just waiting for them to come to the door. After a long time, it seemed a certain understanding took hold among them again. Someone let out a deep sigh, and after brief hesitation and in defeat, Yang Gong said, Tomorrow we'll visit the Qing residence again. Let's hope we can take back whatever we can. Zhang Tao, unwilling, started to speak but hesitated. If we do this, won't it expose our weakness? If we keep hesitating, the salt in our hands will only lose more value. Yang Gong's voice sounded in the dark room. The later we act, the worse it gets. In this contest with the Duke of the Nation, we've already lost. It was still uncertain whether the change in the salt market was just a temporary tactic against them, or a trend that would continue in the future. The next day. To the salt merchants, that night had felt especially long. In contrast, with Ling Yuchan serving him, Qing Xiu felt the night passed in a flash. After all, he was still young, a little exercise, followed by some leisure time after certain exhaustion, and the sky was already bright. At the Qing residence, he welcomed several old friends. These were the same old friends who had left the day before full of joy with loads of salt, and were now returning dejectedly, still carrying salt. Master, they've arrived. Qing Xiu nodded, waved the gatekeeper old Lu away, rubbed his face, and thought about what expression he should use to greet these old friends. It was time to play this scene. Soon, he saw the salt merchants he hadn't met since yesterday. They looked much more haggard now. Understandably so, in just one day they had experienced great highs and lows. Life was hard and full of twists, and it felt as if a single day had been like 3 long years. Their eyes toward Qing Xiu were full of mixed emotions, anger, helplessness, confusion. For some reason, Qing Xiu's face also seemed to carry displeasure, though at whom, they couldn't tell. Duke of the Nation, we want an explanation. Why has the salt market changed so much? After brief hesitation, Yang Gong chose his words carefully, stood up, and cupped his hands. That fine salt of the same quality you sold us for 201 per gene, yesterday the market price was 21 per gene. We're not here to accuse you, just to ask for an explanation. Putting themselves in the victim's seat now? Qing Xiu sneered inwardly. These salt merchants were no different from ordinary businessmen. With a frown and sharp gaze sweeping over them, he asked, a hint of displeasure in his tone. What, are you blaming this duke? As he spoke, Qing Xiu's eyes roamed over their faces. The merchants, alarmed, quickly said they wouldn't dare. Aside from Qing Xiu's noble title, the fierce glares of house guards Guzi and Xuanzi, who had appeared silently nearby, kept them from acting rashly. The murderous looks around them made their hearts pound. They had to force flattering smiles, realizing the Duke of the Nation was not someone they could easily push around, especially here on his own turf. Qing Xiu nodded with satisfaction, as if magnanimously forgiving their impertinence, then waved the guards away. Only then did his expression soften. This time was an accident. Not just you, even I couldn't do anything about it. His tone was full of helplessness, and even from his gritted teeth, they could sense much frustration. The salt merchants, of course, didn't believe him, but they still listened as he continued. Actually, this was a great conspiracy, unrelated to my trade with you. The merchants' hearts stirred, but they stayed silent. Qingxiu seemed unconcerned and continued. His Majesty has long been aware of my contact with you. You know salt and iron are both under the court's control. Entering the Guangzhou salt market isn't easy. But later, I discovered a fine salt mine, which made trade with you Shandong merchants possible. Originally things were going smoothly, but somehow, news of the mine leaked, and His Majesty found out. Here, Qingxiu's face showed resentment. No one expected His Majesty to send men to take over the mine. I had no choice. The court then sent labor to mine it, and in the end, I had almost no fine salt left to supply you. Otherwise, who would turn away from money? Sigh. This excuse, whether they believed it or not, they had little choice but to accept. After all, it was hard to imagine anyone truly rejecting such huge profits just to sell fine salt cheaply. Zhao Qian's eyes moved, and he asked suspiciously, Duke of the nation, do you mean you're also a victim? Qingxiu spread his hands confidently and nodded. Obviously, I can't stay untouched by this either. Then, in these 3 months, you didn't notice anything unusual? We're just small traders after all. His Majesty wouldn't pay us any mind, right? Zhang Tao asked, his face somewhat gloomy. Small traders? Qingxiu's brow twitched, the corner of his mouth curling slightly. Just the funds from your trade exceeded the state treasury. Even Li Er had been so excited he couldn't sleep all night, and that was just half the money from the deal. And you call yourselves small traders? In broad daylight, burning paper at a grave, trying to fool ghosts. Yes, Boss Zhang is right. Another merchant quickly agreed. We're just small salt sellers, nothing more, surely that's beneath notice? Qingxiu smiled faintly, appearing to agree but making no comment, as if not seeing them at all. Qingxiu spread his hands and shook his head helplessly. No matter what, the changes in the salt market are not something we can change anymore. As he spoke, he let out a sigh, deliberately tinged with unwillingness. The salt merchants present naturally sensed this. They exchanged glances, and then Yang Gong couldn't hold back. Duke of the nation, may I ask, is the change in the salt market temporary, or will it be like this from now on? If the salt market stayed at this price in the future, they truly would have no chance to recover. Yang Gong stroked his goatee and probed with a tone of nervousness and hope. It's impossible for the salt market to always be like this, right? That salt mine can't produce only fine salt forever? Hearing this, Qingxiu couldn't help laughing to himself. It seemed they had really believed the earlier story about the fine salt mine. Setting aside his stray thoughts, Qingxiu spoke helplessly, a single sentence that crushed their last hope and pushed them into despair. I'm afraid so. That fine salt mine is still producing fine salt without end, and will likely produce even more. The fine salt in the shops will probably stay at this price forever. His face showed deep regret, as if he too had suffered a great loss in all this. It had to be said, Qingxiu was truly talented at acting, at least enough that these salt merchants seemed to believe him. And with that, it was time to lure them further into the trap. What about the salt in our hands? Zhao Qian panicked completely, his former boldness in ordering 10 million jin of fine salt gone. Now, all he felt was crushing pressure and heartache. His eyes pleaded. Duke of the nation, you can't just stand by and watch. The salt in our hands was bought from you, after all. I sold off my property just to scrape together 600,000 guan in silver. The plump man before him was on the verge of tears. Just thinking of the freshly bought white fine salt in his hands that could no longer be turned into silver filled him with regret. What does that have to do with me? I'm not standing by to watch you die. Qingxiu waved his sleeve, his face stiffening, clearly irritated at Zhao Qian's tone, which carried a hint of blame. He looked coldly at the others in the room and said bluntly, Since our deal was made, it was all open, fair, and voluntary. I never forced you. Now that you've lost money, don't put it on me. At worst, haul it back to Shandong and sell it there. See them out. Seeing that the Duke of the nation truly seemed in a bad mood, the merchants quickly apologized. Zhao Qian bowed low in fear. Duke of the nation, please don't be angry. My earlier words were offensive, I was muddle-headed, I never meant to blame you. Yang Gong also stepped forward, bowing even lower. Please calm your anger, Duke of the nation. He gave Zhao Qian a discreet glance, and Zhao Qian returned it. They had no choice, Qingxiu was the only hope they could think of. As for hauling salt back to Shandong, by the time they sold it there, news from Chang'an would already have spread, and they'd have wasted transport costs too. they weren't fools. Humph. That's better. Qing Xiu eased his tone, refraining from throwing them out, mainly because he feared that acting too harsh might scare them off. Exhaling slightly, he looked at their pleading faces and showed a tangled expression, as if weighing something. After a long pause, he said slowly, "It's not that I'm being heartless. Those 30 million jin of fine salt were indeed sold to you by me. Naturally, I bear some responsibility." The merchant's eyes lit up. This was exactly what they wanted to hear. Ahem. Qing Xiu cleared his throat, spread his hands, and continued. "You know the market price, 21 per jin. At that price, even many black market salt shops have closed. Of course, with the court stepping in, there's nothing that can be done about it." At this, the merchants were deeply disappointed. His words had confirmed the current price for fine salt. Even if they had half expected it, it still stung. Zhao Qian pleaded again. "Then, is there really nothing that can be done? Duke of the nation, perhaps you could speak to His Majesty." "Boss Xiao, say no more. The Duke of the nation has his own difficulties, don't put him in a hard spot." Yang Gong cut him off. Qing Xiu, for his part, felt no sympathy. These salt merchants had been insatiable in their greed when making money, yet when faced with loss, they acted pitiful. It didn't change his view. In his mind, they were profiteers, not worth pitying. "What I've said is the truth. His Majesty has been watching for a long time." Qing Xiu shook his head helplessly, then added, mixing truth with falsehood. "Even I am struggling to protect myself now. The little fine salt I have left must be sold for under 31. As he spoke, he waved outside. Soon, Urguzi brought in a document and handed it to Qing Xiu, glaring at the merchants on his way out, making them flinch. Qing Xiu unfolded the paper and openly showed them. "This is the law His Majesty just revised yesterday. It has already passed the review of the 3 departments and 6 ministries. Even though the news hasn't been made public yet, I think it's the same for you." At this news, the merchants' faces instantly turned ashen. Whatever faint hope they'd had was gone. Before seeing high-quality fine salt sold at such a low price, they wouldn't have believed it. The law's conditions weren't enough to justify it. Even the lowest quality coarse salt had never been priced this low. But they had to accept the fact, fine salt really was that cheap, and the court really was controlling salt prices. "Don't lose heart, things haven't reached the worst yet." Just then, Qing Xiu's voice rang out again, to them, like the sound of heaven itself. In their eyes, his face even seemed to shine with the light of hope, if such a thing could be said. Qing Xiu waved casually. "I know your losses are great. I also bear some blame for this. Duke of the nation, you are overthinking it. Qing Xiu raised a hand to stop the words, shaking his head carelessly. "The salt market can't change again. His Majesty has already drawn up the new law. The 31 price for salt is fixed, it won't change." His firm tone struck the merchants like a thunderclap. If that was true, their family fortunes, built over generations, would be wiped out, and their coffers would be emptier than a maiden's backside. But Qing Xiu's mouth curved in a faint mocking smile. "If you want to get back some of your capital, there's only one way." "What way?" The few of them instantly turned eager eyes toward him. Qing Xiu was their last straw to grasp. Unfortunately for them, Qing Xiu had no intention of saving them. He didn't even plan to part with the 9 million guan difference he had pocketed. He had earned it with his own skill, naturally there was no reason to give it back. Qing Xiu nodded slightly and said in a very indifferent tone. "While there are still people willing to buy your salt, hurry and sell it. Maybe you can recover some of your capital." Once the court fully mastered the technique of extracting fine salt and expanded production, everyone would be able to eat top-quality fine salt. As for the 30 million jin of fine salt they were hoarding, it would rot in their hands. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Before Qing Xiu had even finished speaking, Zhao Qian stood up with his fat body, flinging his sleeve angrily and shouting with absolute determination. "Even if I have to dump this salt into the water, I will never sell it at such a cheap price." As a salt merchant used to making huge profits by buying cheaply, there was no way he would sell the 10 million jin of salt he had bought for several million guan at a price worth only 200,000 guan. The same was true for the others, their faces were full of firm and agitated resolve. "Then it has nothing to do with me," Qing Xiu's tone cooled. "That fine salt is now in your own hands, not mine. Whether you can sell it is not my concern. When there was money to be made, you fought to buy. Now that you're losing, you come begging? There's no such thing. Please don't be angry, Duke of the nation. It's just that this price is truly beyond what we can bear. When we bought from you, it was at 100 yuan per jin." Yang Gong paused, glanced carefully at Qing Xiu sitting in the main seat, and then said with a hint of pleading. "Could the Duke of the nation give us a way out, perhaps buy our salt back at a slightly higher price?" Qing Xiu sneered inwardly, cutting him off. Then what price are you planning to sell your salt to me? Yang Gong exchanged glances with the others. Even Zhao Qian quietly sat down to discuss with them in low voices. After a short discussion, Yang Gong showed a slightly confident smile. We've discussed it, how about 500 won per jin? As for the previous 100 won price we paid you, think of it as our tribute to the Duke of the nation. We and the Duke are always on the same side. Zhao Qian and the others nodded in agreement, acting as if Qing Xiu would be getting a great bargain. Seeing this, Qing Xiu smiled, his eyes full of mockery. 500 won, what a great bargain indeed, he refused flatly. Yang Gong's face changed slightly, but before he could speak, Qing Xiu went on. Salt, that's 20 won a jin, and you want me to buy it at 500? Do you take me for a fool? The merchants' faces darkened. Zhao Qian frowned and asked. What do you mean, Duke of the nation? Don't forget, this salt was sold to us by you. We're only taking back the money that already belonged to us. Now Qing Xiu stopped pretending altogether. From the moment you carted away that salt, there was no your money here. Whether you profit or lose has nothing to do with me. If you keep pestering me, don't blame me for being rude. He gave a cold snort and stared at them intently. You. Zhao Qian was shaking with rage, his fat body trembling. The others also looked grim, but the looks from the guards who had poured in at the doorway brought them back to their senses. They dared not act rashly. The Duke of the nation is right, we have been offensive. Suddenly, the embarrassment on Yang Gong's face melted away like snow, replaced by a smiling expression as he cupped his hands. We were rude earlier. Please forgive us, Duke of the nation. Yang Gong, you. Zhang Tao looked at him in disbelief, reaching out to tug him, but Yang Gong ignored him. Instead, Yang Gong's smile deepened, and he said in a calm tone. The Duke of the nation speaks the truth. As merchants, we should have a merchant's mindset. Whether profit or loss, we should have been prepared. Qing Xiu looked at him silently, suspicion in his heart. Had this old man been driven mad? Just moments ago he was ready to fight to the death, and now he was all smiles. Feeling Qing Xiu's odd gaze, Yang Gong knew this shift seemed too abrupt. He gave a small cough. Ahem, earlier was all a misunderstanding. Please don't take it to heart, Duke of the nation. Of course. I also feel guilty that things have come to this, Qing Xiu said with a straight face, though he didn't believe a word of it. In that case, we'll take our leave today. Yang Gong ignored the looks the others kept throwing at him and smiled as he cupped his hands. Please, Duke of the nation, give us the chance to host a banquet as an apology for our rashness today. We hope the Duke will give us small merchants a chance to put aside our differences. He looked sincere, though who knew how much gritted teeth lay beneath that expression. They hadn't completely torn their faces with each other yet, so Qing Xiu casually nodded without saying more and called outside. See the guests out. He watched them leave, their faces full of unwillingness, confusion, and hatred. Qing Xiu didn't care. Whatever schemes they had, they could try. Some distance from the Qing residence, the merchants walked in silence. Zhao Qian was the first to break. Yang Gong, what did you mean just now? Why bow your head to that brat? Wasn't it him who cheated us out of our money? Our money? No, where is our money? That's Qing Xiu's money now. Yang Gong gave a cold laugh, glanced at the others, and sneered. From beginning to end, it was a trap set by His Majesty and Qing Xiu. We were stupid enough to step right into it. If I hadn't said what I did just now, do you think we'd have walked out of the Qing residence alive? Zhao Qian fell silent. Zhang Tao and the others looked like they wanted to speak but hesitated, finally saying. So, we just let it go? Let it go? Of course not. We can't just let it go. Yang Gong's eyes were full of malice, his face twisted in ferocity as his voice rasped. No one cheats us out of our money. I'll make Qing Xiu pay the price. Zhang Tao was startled, instinctively lowering his voice. Are you crazy? That's a Duke of the nation personally appointed by the court. If the court finds out, we'll all be dead. Zhao Qian gave a cold snort. So what if he's a duke? No one takes our money for free. If we're careful, no one will trace it back to us. Another man interjected. But, will Qing Xiu really come? We can't deal with him inside his own residence. Yang Gong said viciously. Then we'll lure him out. Zhang Tao saw that their talk was getting more and more outrageous, so he knocked on the table and glanced around. Stop talking nonsense. You know Qing Xiu's ties to the royal family, moving against him would mean extermination of our clans. No matter who you send to act, they won't be able to bear the charge, and they won't keep our secret. Once they give us up. Everyone's eyes turned to Zhang Tao. Yang Gong then asked. Then how can we swallow this anger? Even if Qing Xiu died right in front of us now, our losses wouldn't be one coin less. Zhang Tao shook his head. So, the most important thing now is to reduce our losses. Stop stirring trouble in Chang'an, quickly unload the fine salt you have, and find anywhere else to sell it. Zhao Qian sighed. It's too late. News has already spread beyond Chang'an. Who will still buy expensive salt? Then we look beyond the Tang. Sell as much as we can. Zhang Tao was still the most clear-headed. Right now, dealing with Qingxiu was not the priority. If they wasted more time, the salt price would be fixed across the realm, and their stock would be truly stuck in their hands. While there was still time, they could cheat whoever they could. In fact, they could still block news from reaching Shandong, including to the north, Goguryeo, and the Silla Beaked region. Zhang Tao lowered his voice. To the east, there's also Wa, Japan, to the south, Kampa. Sell to them, or trade directly for goods. If they don't have goods, then trade for people. People? That's right. I've been collecting for years and have many Silla slave girls. This is another profitable business. The others looked at Zhang Tao and nodded. Yes, trade could be flexible. They would find every way possible to get rid of the fine salt piling up in their hands, trade for minerals if they had minerals, trade for grain if they had grain. Though it might be a bit demeaning for salt merchants, the losses had to be recovered somehow, even if it meant trading for Kunlun slaves or Silla maids. Brother Zhang, can keeping Silla girls really make a profit? Yes. Silla, Beaked, and Goguryeo have been at war for years. Many girls have been displaced. To them, girls are a burden, they can't farm or fight when grown, so it's easy to trade them away. Zhang Tao lowered his voice. This method wasn't mine originally. But once the girls are brought back, you still have to train them, teach them to sing, dance, and serve their master. They're all hardworking and obedient, and can be sold for a high price. The most important thing is, they have no ties and can even be trained into death warriors. You know what a man's weakness is, don't you? The few of them nodded slightly, with an expression of understanding.